complete college basketball's greatest rebound and rebuild with a championship.
If you're going to war and I'm coaching, I'm taking these guys.
Baylor, kings of college basketball, #1 in the land, and the trophy is coming to Waco.
Baylor, one of the great turnarounds in college athletics history, national champions in year 18 for Scott Drew.
Our fans that have been with us for the lean years, the good years, and our administration, President Livingstone, Mack Rhodes, they all deserve this. The city of Waco deserves this. Hey, Texas, we got a national championship too. The state deserves it.
Did I stutter?
He has time, launches it to the end zone. Touchdown! Terrence Williams!
But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
The 2011 winner of the Heisman Trophy is Robert Griffin III, RG3!
Welcome to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
Langoliers, base hit to center, and the Baylor Bears win their first Big 12 tournament championship.
Their fat little girlfriends are telling them what they want to hear, which is how great you are.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122.
Hello? You play to win the game.
Yep, just ready for OU.
You can't handle the truth.
Here's Drake Toll.
Welcome into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. Happy Wednesday, everybody. The search continues. Names have been thrown out between Satia Messer, Molly Miller, Joni Taylor, Adia Barnes. Everyone wants to know who is next. It's time to move on. We're moving on, and it's time for a new era of Baylor women's basketball.
Very true to Mack Rhodes' form. Everything's very hush-hush. We won't probably know until a few minutes before it breaks. If we don't know when it breaks exactly. Like, that might be exactly when we all find out. But it's a very, very typical Baylor coaching search so far.
254-339-1122. The phone line is open. The text line is open as well. Call us or text us. Talking replacements today, talking football today. We got a jam-packed show for you as well. Coach Bob Green joins the show. We got a clip of him to play here in a bit. He's coming on at 11:20 today. On top of that, you've got, the man that broke the news himself's coming on.
Yeah, Big Scott. I don't even know how to say his last name. We're going to have to ask him before the interview. Rabalais. But he was hilarious. We talked to him and said, hey, that's awesome. You broke the news. That must have been so cool. And he just goes, yeah, I mean, when you get older, you know a lot of people. So I got to find out first. I was like, well, that's pretty cool because we all found it after you did. So thanks for that.
Yeah, that's a great point. You got Morgan Uber joins at 12:30 today. Coach Mike Neighbors, the University of Arkansas Razorbacks. He comes on at 1 o'clock. And then Mack Rhodes spoke yesterday to Smokey and the boys on the afternoon show. We'll have those clips from Mack Rhodes and what he said to David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak yesterday when it comes to, how about it? Kim Mulkey being gone and a new coach coming to Baylor.
Yeah, he had a lot of good stuff to say. I was excited to hear him on. And credit to Smoak, because Smoak did not let up one bit on him in that interview, as he typically does. So that was a great interview. Excited to have some clips of that going.
On top of that, name list already. Molly Miller. Have you seen that name's gone popular? Molly Miller.
I've seen it around.
She has won, I think it's like 91.5% of the games she's ever coached in collegiate basketball, which on a scale of 1 to good is very. I'm going to go ahead and just retweet it. That's pretty darn solid stuff. Molly Miller is a name that's in the coaching search or in the coaching hat for the next position for the opening vacancy at Baylor. You've heard of Adia Barnes, obviously at Arizona. I talked to a couple sources last night. Doesn't sound like a ton of traction is making its way with Adia Barnes yet.
Fair.
However, Joni Taylor, that name has been very, very popular. It stayed popular, and it sounds like Joni Taylor is pretty high on that list still when it comes to who Mack Rhodes and this staff want to go after.
Yeah, it was encouraging last night to hear Mack Rhodes say it's a matter of Baylor saying yes to who they want and not so much the other way around. He's like, we've had a lot of interest. We've had a lot of people say they want this job. And credit to you because you brought this up earlier, I think in last week's show, maybe it was yesterday's show, where you just said it's hard to follow a Hall of Fame coach. Nobody exactly is jumping at the bit to do that. It takes a specific person to come to Baylor and to follow a coach like Kim Mulkey. So a lot of interest. It's going to be a matter of who Baylor wants, I think.
Other news in college sports. Yesterday, Ole Miss fired their offensive line coach 3 days after their spring football game. What kind of maniac fires your O-line coach after the spring game?
The lane train, baby.
The lane train.
Lane train.
What do you make of that?
I mean, I honestly didn't even know about that until I walked in the studio today. So I think that's kind of petty. A part of me thinks there must be personal things going on. I don't think you see anything during the spring to where you're like, we have an issue at O-line, so let's fire our coach during spring football. If you have an issue at your O-line, you probably get that sorted out before spring football.
I don't mean to correct you here, but Lane did come out to the media and said it is strictly football related. There's nothing personal.
When was the last time Lane Kiffin told the truth?
I don't know. If you get fired after the spring game and you're an assistant on a football team,
their offense looked good in the spring game too.
Well, it should. It's a spring game. Your offense should typically look good.
You shouldn't fire a O-line coach after the spring.
Well, they did. That was very, very interesting. The O-line coach gone over there. Also, how about you've got Baylor baseball last night winning 14-0 against Prairie View A&M, and on the other side of that, Baylor softball playing number 1 Oklahoma. I didn't know this. Oklahoma's like 4 girls with 20 home runs. Their worst batting average on the team is like .345. They're a powerhouse. They swept Baylor at Getterman Stadium last night. The Lady Bear softball team following in doubleheader. But baseball with a win, and softball is competitive. They're up by 1 for most of that first game.
They're corking the bats to Oklahoma. Can we confirm that they are corking the bats and potentially using HGH?
They are doing
for the
something.
Oklahoma softball
I've
team.
never seen a team like this.
Like
they're
the Monstars.
39-1 right now.
And the games that are getting canceled, they are rescheduling them with other teams saying, no, we want to play. Anybody play us. Anybody play us. They're trying to break records right now. It's unbelievable.
So we had Steven from Virginia on the caller line here, 254-339-1122. Steven, what is going on? Welcome on Up Tempo on your Wednesday.
Hey, guys. I'm in a much better mood today. I think we're a couple days removed from this whole Coach Mulkey thing, and I think I feel a little bit better about it. I definitely listened to Mac yesterday on SicEm365 Radio, and Mac made it clear that they're gonna choose who's best for Baylor. This is not going to be some kind of reach, and just made me feel about that better. In general, I've seen a lot of posting about Molly Miller from Grand Canyon. I like where that's going. I like the thinking there. She has a Division II national championship, and from it could be a young coach that could grow into a role at Baylor. I think she has a real nice personality too. But we've got a few days, and Matt's going to be quiet, so we can all be loud about who we want, I guess.
That's a good way to
But
say
why I called today is I wanted to ask y'all a little bit about this spring game. Kim Mulkey stole all our joy from the spring game.
The Grinch that stole the spring game.
Yeah.
Kim Mulkey. She's going to call plays. She didn't.
She was going to call. It kind of took over the buzz in Waco. The spring game was going on. You had the national championship in acrobatics and tumbling. Both tennis teams played really, really well. But we weren't really able to talk about that because of the Kim Mulkey news. But we will. I want to give a ton of thoughts on the spring game today because Baylor football is what's very relevant right now, especially after what we saw on Saturday. Well, let's turn it to Steven first, though. Steven, What did you see? What are your main takeaways from Saturday?
So this is kind of the feeling I have, and I think I asked Grayson about this, and he and I kind of disagree. But I thought that Jacob Zeno definitely showed more arm talent. I definitely think that last play showed a lot of arm talent. But to be honest, I thought that Gary, when he was in a quarterback, the offense was way better because I thought that they did a lot of that zone read, a lot of power running with Abram Smith, and that opened up some lanes for Taekwon and RJ to go across the middle and make some plays. And to be honest, if we're going to be a defensive first football team, being a team that prioritizes running the football with, a strong zone read, with Gary and Abram Smith, I really think that could be a recipe for success. And I thought that opened up more lanes for the offense than Jacob did with his arm talent. And, Grayson told me that he said on the Bearcast that he still thinks Jacob's the insider for the job. But I thought the offense looked so much better when Gary was in as opposed to anyone else that I just kind of wanted to ask J.D. what he saw.
Yeah, it's tough. Drake and I actually watched the spring game together, so that was a whole lot of fun. Little mandate there, but yeah, I mean it's interesting because at the end of the day, the spring game is still technically a practice. It is listed as number practice 15 for all these teams. So if you look at the open practice from a week ago that Saturday, I was saying the exact same thing about Jacob Zeno. Hey, offense looks like it just has a different tone, different tempo under Jacob Zeno. But I thought you made a really, really astute observation. If Baylor is going to be a defensive team and try to play this sort of ping-pong style of football where they just wait for the opponent to make a mistake, running the football and what Gary Bohannon does running the ball is going to be a really big differentiating factor. So I'm excited to see how he progresses. I think it will go into fall camp. I think Jacob Zeno, in my mind, whether I'm right or wrong, had a chance to win it in the spring game. I don't think he played well enough to win it in-house, but Gary Bohannon just looked really decisive, in control, very poised. I think it's between him and Zeno when it comes to the fall, but I could be very wrong there. Those are the two guys that I like, but Gary Bohannon running the ball is a whole new element to this offense.
Bohannon's solid, but I got to agree. Bohannon has just the dynamic of Bohannon being able to throw pretty well and run very, very well. Elite runner. Steven, we got to go. We got some Bear games here. Who is your spring game MVP? I think this could probably go to a handful of guys.
Yeah. There were definitely a few guys that I saw. I thought the trendy answer would be Gary because he performed so much better than the other guys at his position, and I think it made a lot of us think. But I'm actually going to go with Abram Smith because I thought he was so dynamic touching the football. On the offensive side, I'm going with Abram Smith because he could run for 1,000 yards. There's no doubt in my mind, and we haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher in a number of years. And if we have a 1,000-yard back, that's going to be a big, big deal. So I'd say either Abram Smith or Apu Ika, the defensive lineman, because he just looks like Superman out there.
He's huge. I like that. He's so good. Hey, thanks for your call, Steven.
Later, guys.
See you later. Hey, Armstrong, we got a video that I shared with you there. We're going to, GW, I see you right there. We're going to get to a guest here really quick, though. We got Coach Bob Green joins us on the other side of this upcoming break. Coach Green was at Montana Tech, the ore diggers. He was an ore digger at Montana Tech for years, and he built his bed. He made his name on coachisms, one-liners.
Yeah.
He is the greatest interview in the history of sports, and we have him on the show today here coming up at 11:20. Coach Bob Green, I couldn't be more excited about having this guy on.
He has so many one-liners. Like, if you were going to tune in for one interview, I would say Bob Green is going to be the interview to tune in for.
This is the guy.
This might be some viral material.
He's a legend. Not only is he a legend, he's been to a national championship in Division 2 or 3 or NAIA. It's something. The guy just wins football games. He's done it at an elite level at Montana State where no one else has been able to win before, but Bob Green did it. He's been retired for about 10 years now, enjoying what he called the geriatric golfing life. His post-retirement, kind of what he calls his post-retirement. But here's a clip of some Bob Greenisms before we go into this interview.
The key to the win was that the ore diggers took control early. Kind of like when you get married. That first day, your wife takes control early. And that's what the ore diggers did.
Our football team was like the kid that plays second French horn in the school band. We got to play better. And that's a double-edged sword, It's kind of like watching your mother-in-law go off a cliff in a Cadillac. You got mixed feelings.
First of all, they got after it hard. I'm telling you, they were like a hobo on a ham sandwich. They were going hard all the way.
He's like that black lab on the first day of pheasant hunting season. He was pulling at the chain. We're kind of like a woodpecker in a petrified forest. Just keep busy and look for opportunities.
I wanted to raise my kids using a depth chart. Can you imagine that? I wanted that. Pam Green vetoed that idea.
I got a short memory, just like when I was in the 3rd grade. 2 of the best years of my life. I don't like that bottled water. I like that butte water. You get to eat and drink at the same time. Some aspects look like we're really ready to play. A couple of other aspects look like we just got off Willie Nelson's tour bus. His attitude's positive. He thinks he could take on hell with a squirt gun.
It's kind of like that T-bone steak dinner with all the trimmings. They played a complete game.
With Jacksonville, what more can happen? Jacksonville's so bad they sentence prisoners to attend the games.
Everybody expects you to win. My wife couldn't go to church with me on Sunday, and everybody said, "Where is she?" I said, "She doesn't go out with losers."
I had a 6 ACT in 1967. One time I got an A and my grandma beat me for cheating.
At all the calls I made on 4th down all those years, you know what my favorite 4th down call was?
What?
Punt. It was the most successful play we had.
That from Coach Bob Green, who joins the show coming up after this. What do we like? Where do you even begin to ask Coach Bob Green questions?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even know what I would ask him. Just like, are you a real person? Is this a shtick? Do you practice this before in the mirror? Like, how does this work here, Bob? I'm excited to talk to him.
Coach Green is certainly one of the best, if not the best, interviews that exists in all of sports, and we're going to have him on this show next, asking him about his illustrious career as a head coach, some of his best coach-isms or Bob Green-isms, because they're unique to him, and more. I want to pick this guy's brain on how Baylor football can win 10 games next season and go to a bowl, because there's anybody that knows.
We could talk about a returement.
It's got to be Bob Green.
We got to talk to him and say, hey, come call the offense. Be director of morale.
Be director of morale, the chaplain of hype, if you will, for Bob Green. I'm Drake Toll. That's J.D. Pickell, Armstrong Sims. On the other side of this break, we've got Coach Bob Green, the most legendary coach in the history of college football and the best interview to walk the face of this planet Earth. He's on the other side of this. Don't go anywhere. This is Up Tempo.
The search begins with a vacancy at the head coaching position for Baylor women's basketball for the first time in 21 years. Mack Rhoades has begun the evaluation of coaches across the country who could be viable candidates for the Lady Bear job. Names such as assistant coach Satia Messer and Georgia coach Joni Miller have gained immense amount of traction as two candidates on the forefront of the search. It's expected that university will name a successor for the former coach by the early part of next week. Outside of women's basketball, they are red hot. The Baylor baseball team dominated one of the Southern Conference's top teams, defeating Prairie View A&M 14-0 at Baylor Ballpark. It was the sixth shutout of the year for the team as they improved to 20-3 at home. As Steve Rodriguez and company have now won 14 of 17 games and have solidified a legitimate postseason resume as the year wanes. On the softball side, the Lady Bears ran into an absolute buzzsaw. Number 1 Oklahoma was just too much for the team to handle as Glenmore and company fell in Game 1 7-1 and Game 2 11-0. Oklahoma improved to 39-1 on the season and 14-0 in Big 12 play, while Baylor did retire the first 13 batters of Game 1 and had a one-run lead in the fourth. It's tough to stop the hottest team in the nation. In NCAA news, President Mark Emmert was granted a contract extension through 2025 on Tuesday by the association's Board of Governors. And Iowa hooper Jordan Bohannon is staying with his school to return for a sixth season. He's the career record holder in assists, three-pointers made, and games played in school history. 5 years will do it for you. And Ole Miss has fired its offensive line coach Randy Clements literally just a couple days after the team's spring game. Lane Kiffin told media it was strictly for football reasons that he was let go. I'm Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. It's been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up Tempo.
How can we help you? That's a question we ask every day at American Bank. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Our commitment to our customers is what drives us. It's why we've invested in new branch buildings and technology like ITMs that let you speak to a teller face-to-face from your car. It's why we work with local businesses, helping Waco grow and thrive. And it's why decisions about your accounts and loans are made here in Waco by people who know you. How can we help you? Find out at American Bank, member FDIC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Texas Board Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Ram Truck Month means special pricing on the new 2021 Ram trucks at Allen Samuels. The three-peat Motor Trend Truck of the Year, Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, has special values up to $5,500 or 0% for 84 months. Allen Samuels, located at 201 West Loop 340 in Waco, Central Texas' new Ram commercial truck headquarters with 3,500 and 5,500 chassis cabs and other great work trucks. Visit Allen Samuels today. It's Ram Truck Month.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio. Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122.
Sit down, Bob. I'm not happy, Bob. Not happy.
Now back to the Bears Den with Drake Toll and J.D. Pickell for the Blonde Boys Power Hour.
Welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. I'm Drake Toll alongside J.D. Pickell, Armstrong Sims today on Up Tempo. It is Up Tempo on Wednesday. How about you? Baylor in search of a new women's basketball coach today, and the search is on for Mack Rhoades and company, the administration. And the first call that I made when I heard that Kim Mulkey was leaving the Lady Bear basketball program was this guy right here, Coach Bob Green. And Coach, what do you think? How about a little women's basketball action? You think you could coach it?
Well, you know, I was a high school assistant basketball coach years and years ago at a small town in western Nebraska. The head basketball coach is my assistant in football, and I was assistant in basketball. And, hey, we were up-tempo, man. We would fake to the open man and shoot. Our guys would rather pass a kidney stone than a basketball. They shot that thing, man. But, you know, I'm retired. I'm not going to be a candidate. You can write me off.
Well,
confirmed on Up Tempo.
Coach, yeah, we were looking at a figure around $2 million, but since you said no, that's all right. We'll just go ahead and take your name off the list. Thank you for doing that. I do want to ask you, though, Coach, and I want to be very candid in my first question, and that's this. Who is, for those that don't know, Bob Green?
Well, you know, I'm a geriatric football coach. I coached for almost 40 years at 4 universities and 2 high schools. Enjoyed them all. The last 24, I coached here at Montana Tech. I was the head football coach here. For 17 years, I was also the athletic director. That was kind of the business model back then. But, yes, I enjoyed everywhere I was. Maybe a little different than some old coaches. You know, they'll tell you they served time at this place or this place was a hole or something. But I really liked everywhere I was. Obviously, the 24 years that I was here was a highlight. We're an institution that has real high academic standards, and we were able to be successful. And I worked with a lot of great young men, great coaches, just had a blast. But, you know, that's the way it was at all the places I was. I can say, you know, we certainly didn't win them all, but had a great time everywhere. And, you know, I think the older you get, the more you see that you have an influence on people, and I think that grows on you.
Coach, we just had our spring game here in Waco for the Baylor Bears. Again, we're a Baylor-centric show. The way you ran your program, how much stock did you put into the spring games, if you will?
That's an excellent question. We really thought it was a big deal. I know that some coaches have various ideas about it. Of course, I never had to coach during a pandemic, but and that throws another monkey wrench in it. But I always thought it was real serious. We wanted to get a lot done in spring. Now, that being said, we would vary how we did it depending on our experience level. The more we needed experience, the more experience we got in terms of hitting, in terms of scrimmaging, those type of things. And, the 40 years that I coached college football, if there was ever a period of time that saw more change, I'd have to see it. Because when I got into it, it was essentially an unregulated industry. And then, as you guys know, scholarship limitations, recruiting limitations, all those rules really came into being. And again, I'm not like, those things are good things. But you really had to adjust. And so as you were able to do less time-wise with your guys during the year and, the strength coaches would be with them, those type of things, that further made spring practice important. We'd always finish here with a big scrimmage and do a weekend of it. We would have, alums come in and we'd do a big banquet the night before, and then we'd do an auction, a fundraising auction for all sports. So, yeah, to answer your question, it's a big deal for us.
Coach, along with that, you spent most of your spring games in your career at Montana Tech University, and they've got who I would say, I come from Arkansas, and the slogan is "There's only one Razorback," and I got to believe there really is only one ore digger. What is a Montana Tech ore digger?
Well, that's a good question. We were started as a mining school. Now we're a big school in engineering. I know when I applied here, I'm the world's worst interviewer. I had a lot of jobs, but I'm a terrible interview guy. So I interviewed, and our president, Dr. Lindsey Norman, said, "You realize, Coach, we have an outstanding engineering curriculum." And I told him I always loved trains. I just didn't know. But there are other ore diggers. The Colorado School of Mines are the ore diggers, an NCAA Division II school down in Golden, Colorado. And, they're a rival of ours. By the way, we were undefeated against them. Just check the record, just as an aside. But an ore digger's a miner. Charlie Ore Digger's our mascot. And that's what we started out as the Montana School of Mines.
Wow. Charlie the Ore Digger.
Coach, you strike me as a guy that has been around football for a very long time. Obviously, you coached for a long time, but even before that.
Not a day over 55. Not that long of a time.
24 seasons, my man's been around the game. Coach, you're a legend. Coach, when did you fall in love with football? Was that something that your family did, you grew up with? Talk to us about that.
Well, that's a great question. Speaking of where I was, though, I see in Drake's phone number, he's got a Conway, Arkansas. Now, of course, when I was at Northwest Missouri State, we played Central Arkansas. I remember some games there, Conway, and then they got a little suburb there, Toadsuck, where the Toadsuck, the industry's selling T-shirts. So I have been around a little bit, but I fell in love with football as a young kid. I grew up in Nebraska, and obviously that was in the 60s, the late 50s and 60s when Nebraska rose to prominence. And so, of course, I was into all sports. All we did, was play football, basketball, baseball. We did all those things. Football, probably the team element. I certainly wasn't a great player, don't get me wrong. The team element of football appealed to me. I like the fact there are a lot of people there. Football is the only sport where everybody has to be doing everything right. Nothing wrong with basketball, but you got LeBron James. Hey, the rest of you guys get out of the way. LeBron's going one-on-one here. Man, that just can't happen in football. Can't happen. So I think the team element appealed to me, the competition, the excitement, the physical contact, and the preparation. Basketball, baseball, really game-oriented. I mean, they talk about preparation, but just play so many games. You really don't have time. And football, just the nature of it, you play one game a week and you prepare like crazy. So those directed me toward the sport.
Coach, I'm glad you brought up Toadsuck because it's a niche thing. You say those words most places, they won't get it. But that there.
You don't get it. They haven't been there. Conway's a beautiful place. Central Ark was a beautiful place. And
And they were always tough. They're an outstanding football team.
And they had an old Scottie Pippen, too. I don't know if the folks at home have heard of that name, but he played basketball there at UCA. And, the one that played for the Bulls with Jordan. Same one. Yep, that's right. Well, Coach,
crazy hair.
You talk about loving the game of football, falling in love with the game of football. There's one play that I've heard you say has maybe been your most successful across your career, and it's something that Baylor did a lot last season, and that's punt the football. Walk me through the art of punting the football.
Well, that quote kind of became famous. That was real big. A lot of coaches were going on fourth down, in those days. That was kind of the new deal. And obviously offense has risen to prominence. The rules, the field, everything, artificial surfaces, those have all contributed to making offense big. And so, everybody's going on fourth down. So, the media guy, and I enjoy hanging out with the media. I don't know how all these things get on YouTube and all these deals get started. Like I told you, Drake, I'm like Haley's Comet. I come around once every couple of years, but people put those things together and they somehow get out there. But the guy asked me, what was our favorite fourth down? And the thing just hit me. I'm going to punt the thing, most of the time anyway. Punt's a great play. If you execute it right, you got to protect the punter. You got to make a good punch. You got to cover. The ball changes hands on the kicking game play, and you can set yourself up well. That being said, I think Coach Aranda is going to get that thing going in Baylor. You got great facilities. You're in a great state to recruit, Texas. You've got tradition there. I think obviously you've got to score. Today's day and age, the old school coaches who say defense wins games, they're wrong. In today's day and age, they're wrong. You got to score. Now you got to play defense, but you got to score, and you can play great defense and still give up points. I remember even back when I was playing college football years and years ago, well, if they don't score, they don't win. Well, hey, they're going to score, guys. They are going to score. So, but I think punt is a great play. You execute it right. You look at games all the time, and now here's the old coach. I might sound like an old coach, but I'm an old coach. Kicking game, you got to be solid there and execute that punt game.
Coach Drake mentioned it. You have no shortage of one-line wisdom. Are these things that you come up with on your own? Have you heard them before? Where are all these things originating from?
All those things, they kind of – I always thought there's no reason – I coached in some programs where there's almost an adversarial relationship with the head coach and the media, and I saw no reason to do that. Now, you're going to get criticized, hey? That's the game. And I saw that happen. The game has become incredibly popular, which is great. It's great for the game. But TV, social media, those things, give everybody a voice, and it's just more common. But my feeling was always, if you can have a relationship with the media, they're trying to get something done. They're trying to do their job. You're trying to do their job. So you're trying to do your job. So if you can have a good relationship with the media, with the newspaper, with the TV guys, the radio guys, I think that's nothing but good. And maybe that's an advantage we have up here. We're a state with, they say we have 1 million people. I don't know if we do, over 160,000 square miles. We don't have to compete with the Baylor Bears or the Nebraska Cornhuskers or the Denver Broncos. We're what's going on. The two larger universities have FCS programs. But, so we do. We're what's happening here. The local guys cover us. The state guys cover us. So, the chance to interact with the media a great deal. And, to be honest, some of those things you steal, you remember. You go all the way back to playing high school football, playing college football. I served in the Marine Corps. You hear guys say there, and they just kind of all resonate with you. And if something seems to match something you already have, I would say it, or think it. But there has to be. I remember we had a new media girl here, and we're doing the preseason football, and it's media day, and media day is a pain in the butt. The old coaches are right. It's a pain. All the coaches want to coach, and, but you get all the guys in their uniforms, and they do the interviews and all those. So we would go morning practice, and that's it. Then we do media day, that's it. Then we're in the cafeteria, then we do meetings and look at tape of the morning practice. But So, and then hopefully that's all out of the way and you just practice. So we had this new media young lady and she said, we got all done with the interviews and she said, say something funny. And so, you got to have some type of context, give me a chance here. So I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, say something funny. She said, give me a quote about a famous old coach. I said, what did that famous old coach, Amos Alonzo Staggs, say right before he died? So I told her, run that. But it went right over her head. You got to have context.
I don't know how she'd put that in print. I don't know how you'd be able to write that quote down, but I bet they could get it pretty good on camera. Coach, I'm looking at your career, 140 wins at Montana Tech as an ore digger. And one of the things that I've noted on here is a 1996 appearance in the NAIA National Championship game. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about your tie. In your career at Montana Tech, you had a tie. And I've always been told a tie is like kissing your sister. I want to know your thoughts on that ball game.
Well, that was with Chadron State College from Nebraska. And, up here, there's not a whole lot of teams. You go a long ways, and it's, 800-900 miles on the bus to get there. And they came here. We'd come there. Danny Woodhead played for them in the NFL. And, what's his name? The great receiver for Buffalo. And then for Dallas. But anyway.
Beebe? Is that Don Beebe?
Don Beebe played for him, yeah. And we beat him with Don Beebe. Never played him with Danny Woodhead. But, Don mugged us for about 240. But we ended up winning the game. But anyway, that was a tie game here. And there was a controversial call in the end zone. We tied the game. Or no, we went to 2 points with a catch in the end zone. Maybe it was bobbled, maybe not. Hopefully you get a few breaks at home. And so we were 2 down, had to go for 2 to tie it. And so, you could tie back in those days, and we tied. That happens sometimes. But it is like kissing your sister.
Which is okay in some states.
Some people allow that. I don't know. I don't think we...
I only had 2 brothers, so that was it.
We got to settle sometimes.
You're tough. That's a tough spot to be in. Coach, Drake alluded to it before. We got a coaching search going on here in Waco for the women's basketball vacancy. For the most part, we're fishing in the dark. We're going to find out when it gets announced. What would be your advice to the Baylor administration about who they should hire in terms of characteristics for this next women's basketball head coach?
Yeah, obviously, you're probably going to have some type of committee. Don't get big committees, man. If you have a big committee, that's how you get a camel, as a horseback committee. And so I'd keep that committee small. I'd look at people coming in and obviously you gotta, you're dealing with agents most of the time, which I think is very difficult. But, you want to do a good job of vetting them, good job of checking them out because, we get some hires now that they get on social media and they found out a guy said something 5 years ago on social media and everybody makes a big deal of it. I think that you got to work that. I think obviously character comes into play. There's no substitute for character. I mean, those people have to be dependable. They have to be. I'd always call character high trust, low maintenance. And I think it's the same thing, with a coach. And obviously at Baylor, you have conditions, that don't exist everywhere else. So that has to be there too. I do think though you have to move reasonably quickly. I think a lot of times you take too long on these deals, and then it looks bad for everybody. Now, and that's more of a big deal. I remember when I interviewed here, I told you I'm a terrible interview. I went back to Maryville, Missouri, and Pam Green said, well, how'd it go? I said, hey, we got this thing, man. We're moving. We're going to deal it. Well, they tried to hire 4 other guys, which didn't bother me. I don't care. But it took a while. So, I think they got to move quickly. There are a lot of great basketball coaches out there. The most important thing is a fit when you hire somebody as an assistant coach. And boy, I made some mistakes. I made some mistakes hiring assistants. And the big thing you look for is a fit. I'd look for character. I'd look for a fit. You got to be able to recruit, no doubt about that. And, Coach Mulkey gets a lot of credit for being able to recruit. Man, I remember that what is she? A 6'8" girl a few years ago.
Brittany Griner, yeah.
Oh man, was she outstanding? But I'd watch her coach, and I think she did a good job coaching. I mean, she's out there. They're hustling on defense. It looks like they're organized on offense. So those are big shoes to fill. But I'd look for that fit first of all, and I wouldn't waste a lot of time. Get after it.
Coach, last question from us here, and thank you so much for coming on the show today, but I want to know, I've watched a ton of your interviews, and I love all the stuff that you said, even about family, and your wife, Pam, and the influence she has on you, but when it comes to, I wish we had plenty more time, I really do, but when it comes to advice that you can give everybody out there, not just the Baylor Search Committee, but everybody when it comes to life, I mean, you've made it this far to the ripe age of 52. What are your words of wisdom for the folks at home?
Well, the biggest thing, and I do corporate talks and things, and probably the best way to encapsulate our program is we did everything with positive attitude. We took over a football team. We didn't have anybody that won a game, at Montana Tech. We didn't have anybody that won one. They were 0-10 the year before. I do the big meeting with them. 0-10, man, we can't be 0-10. What can we do? What can we do? I'm going to be real positive with them. One guy in the back raised his hand. I said, yeah, what can we do? He can't be 0-10. He said, we got to schedule 9 games. So
smart kid.
I think we got smart guys, but we always had a positive attitude. And I think that positive attitude, that positive mental attitude, seeing each day as a gift, really, really serves you well.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for coming on our show today. It's an honor to have you. I know you've gone viral again. You said at Haley's Comet. You come back around this time. But it was an absolute pleasure. I know everybody out there loved it as well. I tell you what, I'd be remiss if we didn't have you on again here in a couple of weeks, if it fits your golf schedule, that is.
Well, you got my number. Give me a call. Yeah, we'll see if we can get this computer started again.
Sure enough. Coach Green, thank you so much for doing this with us.
He's got to be.
Thanks, fellas.
See you,
Thanks, Coach.
That's Coach Bob Green of the Montana Tech Ore Diggers.
I think he could interview for the job.
Oh, my goodness.
He could get the job.
I love it. Take that along with Crazy Hot Matrix guy. Come on. That's just not even fair.
I love him. I love him.
Of the Ore Diggers, wow. Wow, Bob Green, a legend. Went to an NAIA national championship game. So the tie's like kissing your sister, but sometimes you just got to live with it. You just got to live with it.
0-10 when they took it over.
When he took it over, they were a bad program. He went in there and just won. He did nothing but win. And then Scott Rabalais.
We're going to find out.
We're going to say Rabalais.
Rabalais.
He comes on the show up next. He broke the news that Kim Mulkey was going to LSU. How did he know? Well, he can tell us. The first hour of SicEm365's Up-Tempo is brought to you by Banson Business Services, owned by Baylor grad and SicEm365 premium member Jonathan Green. Banson Business Services offers a full suite of business support and financial services. Banson specializes in bookkeeping, payroll, outsourced CFO services, and consulting. They can even help you with your taxes. Their business helps you run your business. Visit SicEm365.com/Banson for more information. Drake Toll, J.D. Pickell, Armstrong Sims. When we come back, the man that broke the news. This is Up-Tempo.
The search begins with a vacancy at the head coaching position for Baylor women's basketball for the first time in 21 years. Mack Rhoades has begun the evaluation of coaches across the country who could be viable candidates for the Lady Bear job. Names such as assistant coach Satia Messer and Georgia coach Joni Miller have gained immense amount of traction as two candidates on the forefront of the search. It's expected that university will name a successor for the former coach by the early part of next week. Outside of women's basketball, they are red hot. The Baylor baseball team dominated one of the Southern Conference's top teams, defeating Prairie View A&M 14-0 at Baylor Ballpark. It was the sixth shutout of the year for the team as they improved to 20-3 at home. As Steve Rodriguez and company have now won 14 of 17 games and have solidified a legitimate postseason resume as the year wanes. On the softball side, the Lady Bears ran into an absolute buzzsaw. Number 1 Oklahoma was just too much for the team to handle as Glenmore and company fell in Game 1 7-1 and Game 2 11-0. Oklahoma improved to 39-1 on the season and 14-0 in Big 12 play, while Baylor did retire the first 13 batters of Game 1 and had a 1-run lead in the fourth. It's tough to stop the hottest team in the nation. In NCAA news, President Mark Emmert was granted a contract extension through 2025 on Tuesday by the association's Board of Governors. And Iowa hooper Jordan Bohannon is staying with his school to return for a sixth season. He's the career record holder in assists, three-pointers made, and games played in school history. 5 years will do it for you. And Ole Miss has fired its offensive line coach Randy Clements literally just a couple days after the team's spring game. Lane Kiffin told media it was strictly for football reasons that he was let go. I'm Armstrong Simpson. That's all the news that is news in college sports. It's been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up-Tempo.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasonings, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Now back to the Bears Den with Drake Toll and J.D. Pickell for the Blonde Boys Power Hour.
Welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. Happy Wednesday, everybody. The search continues for women's basketball coach. We'll keep you updated throughout the week on that. And the search continues because Kim Mulkey left Baylor University for Louisiana State. She's now stationed in Baton Rouge, back home. And the man that broke the news.
Man that broke the news with the Advocate in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He was first on the scene. Scott Rabalais joining the program. Scott, welcome into Up Tempo.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Now talk to us about how were you the first one on the scene here? I know when we talked on the phone, you're like, yeah, if you're around long enough, you know a lot of people that know a lot of things. Was it that black and white of an event, or how did that work out for you being the first one to know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Baton Rouge. I mean, Kim's hometown is 45 minutes away. There's a lot of people that I know who know her between here and there, and obviously, but this also became very clear very early on that she was the number one goal. She was the person LSU wanted more than anyone else. So if they could get her to be interested, that this was the direction they were going. So there were a lot of people who didn't believe it would happen, and rightly so. Very successful coaches rarely leave places where they've done very well, but especially Hall of Fame coaches. But they pulled it off.
Scott, with Kim Mulkey leaving Baylor University to go to LSU, obviously she's going back home, but what does home mean? Is this a situation where Kim Mulkey's moving just back to the area, or does it really feel like the state of Louisiana as a whole is bringing her in?
Yeah, I think both, really. LSU is the flagship school in the state. She did not go to LSU, of course. She went to Louisiana Tech in Ruston, which is about 4 hours north of here. But Tickfaw, her hometown, is about 45 minutes away, east of here. She went to Hammond High School, similar thing, and so she knows this area so well. Of course, her son Kramer Robertson played shortstop for LSU for 4 years, and she was such a fixture at so many of those LSU games here and in the College World Series. I think as it has been explained to me, Louisiana never stopped being hard. She did put down roots in Waco. She was there 21 years, so she did feel at home there too and a part of it. But you never took South Louisiana out of her heart completely, and I think that was. I think that was a major factor. And she said she wouldn't have gone anywhere else, and I think that's true. I mean, Louisiana Tech doesn't afford this kind of opportunity anymore as a chance to be a national power, a national player. So, there was nowhere else in Louisiana to go. I don't think if this job was open at Illinois or Arizona State or Maryland or something like that we'd be having this conversation.
And how early did you get wind of this? Because from what we understand, it was around a week or so ago is when the conversation started over here in Waco, at least. I mean, that was when we first heard about it. How early did this become a topic for her?
Let's see. I would say, when there was a report from another local news outlet, the CBS affiliate, that Nikki Fargas was leaving, the LSU's previous women's basketball coach, and so okay, now's the time to break glass in case of emergency with some people who I know her very well, and say at least, look, would she listen? I mean, again, it's very difficult to get someone in her position of her stature to agree to go anywhere, obviously, and so. So the word came back to me. Yes, she would listen. This is something that people want to make happen, but she wasn't going backwards. And they just released some of her contract details. Just became public. I could share those with y'all as you decide. So she's well compensated, but it's not just about that. I don't think she was trying to leverage Baylor or anything like that. So it just became an issue of would they come up with a deal that would make her feel properly properly wanted, properly supported at a school that she'd only been to as a visitor before, really.
Scott, along with that, we've heard some reports, differing reports kind of back and forth between how this relationship came about. Some folks have said, hey, Bob Woodward at the very start of this did not believe that really LSU would get Kim Mulkey because she is so sustained in Waco. And on the other side of that, Kim Mulkey thought, hey, if there's a window of opportunity to go home, this might be it. Does it seem like one party or the other was the definitive catalyst that made this happen?
Well, I have to say, boy, that's a good question. Really hard to decide. It's Scott Woodward, the athletic director. Bob Woodward is one of my journalistic heroes who broke the Watergate story.
Bob Woodward was with us. He was on one of our games yesterday that we talked about on the show. I'm sorry about that. Thank you for correcting me, Scott.
No problem. He's another Scott like me. Also grew up in Baton Rouge and went to LSU. So, her willingness had to be there first of all, and then LSU's willingness to put together a package. Like Woodward has made a reputation as being a deep sea fisherman, when in terms of coaching hires. When he was at Washington, he brought in Chris Peterson from Boise State, and people said, "You're never going to get Chris Peterson to leave Boise State." Well, he did, and they went to the college football playoff with him. When he was at Texas A&M, he brought in Jimbo Fisher. People were like, "Why would he leave Florida State for Texas A&M?" Well, it turns out Jimbo was unhappy about a lot of things at Florida State, and a $7.5 million 10-year guaranteed contract. $7.5 million a year guaranteed contract. We'll probably do it. And Buzz Williams too, of course, the head coach at Virginia Tech. And his situation I liken to this because he's a Texas guy and he grew up, I think near Dallas, and he wanted to come home to Texas, and figured he had a more well-funded athletic program to come home to. So they had to be the willingness to make this commitment. There was her name came up 10 years ago when LSU hired Nikki Fargas, and I don't know what she was making then. I assume it wasn't a little over $2 million a year, but it wasn't. I don't think it was something that LSU was willing to show that kind of financial commitment to women's basketball at the time, and now they are, and so it had to be there. Her willingness to move and to at least listen, and LSU's willingness to put together a package that would do it. And Scott Woodward, as has been shown, especially with the Jimbo Fisher hire at Texas A&M, is not afraid to put together a huge package. And this was the big question. So I guess you would say it a little more leaning to Woodward's side because LSU, like a lot of schools, has taken a big financial hit during the pandemic. The school lost $80 million in the previous fiscal year. They had to lay off some folks and cut some expenses elsewhere in this. But again, as you said, on her part and their part, you don't get this opportunity very often. And she's 58 years old. She wasn't going to have much time to make this move again. Wait for LSU to hire someone else, and if they don't work out after 4 or 5 years, make this move again. No, this had to happen now, and timing was definitely right. And I'll add one more thing. This surprised me a little bit, considering her struggles in recent years. Nikki Fargas was going to come back as LSU's coach, according to people who told me, and Scott Woodward, that they went 9-13 this year. They've missed the NCAA tournament. They would have gone the year before if there'd been a tournament. Let's say 3 of the last 5 years that they've missed, and just haven't had that kind of success that LSU would like to have. But she would have come back, but she has decided to pursue another job. We hear she may be going to the Las Vegas Aces WNBA team for a front office job. So I just want to throw that in there. That was somewhat surprising to me. But again, timing is all had to come together just right.
There's a report out right now by The Athletic. They say a lot of the conversations for Mulkey to go to LSU were around getting support for the administration at Louisiana State. Do you know specifically what those supports that she required were that ended up her inking with LSU?
Not specifically. I mean, obviously it's more than her salary. I mean, I think the facilities at LSU need a little upgrading. The assembly center, the Pete Maravich Assembly Center where her teams will play is 50 years old. And it's had some renovations over the years, but it could use a little TLC. And they have 2 practice gyms grafted onto the north side of the assembly center that were built a decade or so ago. One for the men, one for the women, identical. But their offices aren't in there. Their weight room's not in there. I know these are things that Will Wade, the men's basketball coach, has wanted for a long time. And obviously, whatever you're going to do for men's basketball, you're going to have to do it for women's basketball and vice versa. So I would think that those kind of commitments and plans are things that are going to have to be coming out. And I know she told someone. Maybe this won't surprise y'all, having been at Baylor so long. Said, Kim, the facilities here are, they need to be improved. There's some work to be done. Well, if they don't find the money, I'll raise the money. That's what she told somebody. So, who told me? So, there's some work to be done there. I think the willingness to do it. This is a school, by the way, that right now, women's basketball is way down the pecking order in terms of fans' interest and that sort of thing. You got football, then you have baseball at LSU, which probably doesn't surprise you. Then men's basketball. Then I would say gymnastics. then probably softball, then women's basketball. Okay, so but the financial commitment has been made to those other women's sports. They just last year opened a big new indoor training facility at the softball ballpark, and gymnastics about 4 or 5 years ago opened a gymnastics practice facility that's next to the Assembly Center that is probably the best in the world. It's better than the U.S. Olympic training facility. So the commitment is there if the money can be raised to upgrade facilities. And I think that willingness to spend the money, though, sometimes becomes a stumbling block. But I would imagine that's a stumbling block that Kim has removed from the start.
Wow. Well, Scott, I've got a question here for you, and this is based off of what you've heard so far from Kim and in her press conference, the conversations maybe that you even had with sources prior to her coming to LSU. Does it feel like, and from what you've heard, this is a very pointed question too, so feel free if there's information you can't give out, that's perfectly okay. Does it feel like this move is more because Kim felt hurt or unappreciated at Baylor, or is this more on the side of Woodward came out with a great recruiting pitch, sales pitch that Kim bought into more so than her maybe feeling a little bit rubbed the wrong way here at BU?
Yeah, I think, and I read a column that was in one of the I guess the Fort Worth paper. This guy said, this is not about her going home. It's all about money. Well, guys, y'all are much younger than me. Let me offer one bit of advice. 30 plus years of journalism has taught me anything is that the truth lies somewhere in the middle. It's very rarely all this or all that. And I think if you spend 21 years someplace, you're gonna. I know I do it. When you look at like an LSU team, going into a season compared to other teams in the SEC, how are they going to fare this? Now you see all the imperfections and all the warts up close, right? Where you're not seeing those at Tennessee or Florida or Texas A&M because you're not there every day. And so you deal with an athletic program each and every day. And now she has new administrators, obviously, than she had when she first came there. Obviously, this is going to be a factor and that sort of thing. But I also think it's a chance to come home. Her parents are both still living. Her mother still lives in the Tickfaw area. She's very close to her mom. It's a chance to see her on a more regular basis. I think leaving, I don't get the impression that her daughter Mackenzie, who has obviously been on her staff, is going to be moving and leaving her grandson, who she brought up on the podium. I'm sure that doesn't surprise everyone. She brought up on the podium Monday at her introduction. She loves her grandchild, and she has another one on the way. I think those were tough decisions, but again, the right time at the right place, I think, overweighed everything else. And I think just the impression I get from what I've heard, I think she could have overlooked any slights or things she was unhappy about at Baylor. And there's your contract. I'll go ahead and bring up the terms: $2.5 to $2.8 million over the next 8 years, plus bonuses and that sort of thing. Plus a rather large $80,000 a year personal travel bonus, which I assume means flights on private planes to and from Waco to visit her grandchildren, as much as anything, or maybe to see Kramer play baseball. He's going to be starting in AAA next month. I think those overrode everything else, and I think she could have stayed there if the deal hadn't been right. I don't think she came here just for no reason, and I think she was going to another school, not any other school. With this potential is open right now that I could think of, but I think there's some truth to both sides, but I think it leans to the being at home and being closer to home and being at a place where she thinks she can also win again. And that last challenge, let's not forget too, one coach has won national championships at two different schools in basketball, Rick Pitino. Okay, ever. No women's coach has done it. She has a chance at LSU with the resources and the support that obviously they're showing. The talent base needs a little improving in Louisiana, and she could help do something about that too. You can do something that Gino Auriemma and Pat Summitt and Tara Vanderveer and Muffet McGraw, none of those coaches have ever done, which is be a national champion at two different schools. And that's got to be a little appealing too, that challenge to see if you can bring back a program that once went to 5 straight Final Fours back in the mid to late 2000s.
In your best estimation, how much did the success of the men's team impact Kim Mulkey leaving for LSU?
I think some, and the men's program has been very good under Will Wade. They've won the most games in the SEC over the last 3 years of any program, and that includes an SEC title and a trip to the Sweet 16 2 years ago. I think Will Wade would probably is a very frank person like Kim is. He probably told her there's some things that he would like to see happen with the facilities, as I mentioned earlier, I think he's found a kindred spirit and an ally, a very powerful ally in Kim Mulkey. But I think that's something to do with it. And I also think all those years coming to see her son Kramer play baseball at LSU. Again, as a visitor, you're not delving into the books or the nuts and bolts of anything. But I think she found a comfort zone there that I think that probably aided to her ability to make a decision, having been around the program and been around Baton Rouge so much in those years watching him play. I think that might have been a little more of a factor, but I think the fact that the men's basketball, there's been a commitment there as well, and with them, but also seeing things that need to be worked on that they can both work on together is probably a good point too.
Scott, the pecking order at LSU seems to go, I know you mentioned it a little bit, football, then you got Will Wade and men's basketball that have really been on just a splash on the scene the last few years. Obviously, Paul Maneri and what he's put together at Alex Box Stadium that's packed every night, even though there's a down year this year. Gymnastics with Dee, she built with what Dee built. Softball, Beth Torina. I mean, you look down the order of great athletics at LSU. If Kim Mulkey is making this move to be the biggest show in town, for women's basketball to be the biggest show in town at LSU or even in Louisiana, is that a move that could put her in trouble?
In what way?
So is there, I guess I'm trying to say, with that pecking order, is there ever a way for women's basketball to be king or queen in Louisiana and maybe be what it was here at Baylor and for this area?
I just have a hard time seeing anything breaking that, especially in South Louisiana, breaking that LSU football, New Orleans Saints juggernaut. And look at the Pelicans have their supporters, right? With Zion Williamson and all that stuff, and they're still far down the list. I mean, I think if interest in the Saints, and I think it's the same for LSU football, is a 10, interest in the Pelicans, I think, is probably a 5 at best. And like I said, it's baseball too. LSU with the 6 national championships in baseball and 17, 18 trips to the College World Series. It's baseball that's number 2. We have a beat writer who goes to every single LSU baseball game home and away. I would certainly believe we're the only newspaper in America that does that. And so, because the interest is there so much. And so I think you can like I said, and speaking of gymnastics, women's basketball did this while gymnastics went up. The interest and success of the program to where they draw 10, 11, 12,000 people a meet in a normal year, not what they do now. Women's basketball has to build back to that, and they're trying to sell season tickets. And as of yesterday, I hadn't heard any of the numbers today, they'd sold taking deposits on 1,600 season tickets, which is really great considering, the last few years, they've this include last year, they would average, maybe 1,000 people a game the last 3 or 4 years. So that's improving. It's going to take some time and a chance to build. Can it be the biggest thing ever? I don't imagine either sport, women's or men's basketball, that it could. I can't imagine any level of winning where it would be bigger than football, especially given LSU's success in football. I mean, the only program in the 2000s to win more national titles than LSU is Alabama. So. And the very recent success of a national title 2 years ago and a Heisman Trophy winner and all that. So I don't think it can ever surpass that, but it can certainly be bigger than what it was. And it's an interesting dynamic with women's basketball. While fans in the stands has certainly fallen off, and there's been, I think, a certain amount of apathy has set in recent years, people still expect them to win. They see, when they do go to the Assembly Center for men's basketball or gymnastics or something like that, they see those 5 banners that are hanging from the catwalk from those 5 straight Final Four appearances. And the expectation is, and LSU was good before that. They'd been to several Elite Eights and stuff like that, and had a very good program under Sue Gunter that finally took off toward the end of her time there with Simone Augustus. People probably have heard of her, an Olympian and very successful in the WNBA. So the expectation is there for LSU to be good. And she threw down the gauntlet at her introductory press conference. She said, look at those banners. She told her players, They were there. Look at those banners. None of those say national champions. That's what I came here to do. It's like, okay, no one has to put any more pressure on her than she did to herself. So if she does that, if she can accomplish that, win a national championship in women's basketball, it will be a very, very huge thing. And maybe bring women's basketball, close to being on par with those sports. But breaking that football, baseball juggernaut is going to be really tough to do.
Scott, based on what you heard, how much did the Baylor men's national championship have to do with Mulkey leaving to LSU?
Well, I think conversely, everyone likes to be appreciated, right? And obviously all the attention's on them right now. But, I mean, they just won 2 years ago. I mean, what a time for Baylor basketball. So, Scott Drew has some ties to LSU as well. His dad, Homer Drew, was an assistant under Dale Brown back in the 70s, when Dale was first getting started here. So I don't know if he was born in Baton Rouge, but he certainly had some of his younger years here. So again, that goes back to the part that it's like, after 20 something years in one place, things can get a little stale, and the pastures look greener elsewhere, and she has a chance to make them greener. She with the force of her will, which is considerable. But I guess that's probably a little bit of a factor as well. But I think she's I think she comes here knowing where basketball ranks at LSU and everything, and it's a funny position that basketball occupies in Louisiana, because there've been a lot of, when you really dig down in, been a lot of great players. The all-time NCAA scoring leader is Pete Maravich. He also set the record for a senior and a junior and a sophomore. The freshman scoring record is held by Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. So all the NCAA scoring records in the men's side are held by LSU players, which is kind of remarkable. You have players like Robert Parrish from Louisiana and Bob Pettit, who played at LSU, and some great players who played at other schools and went on to coaching and that sort of thing. So there are a lot of very good players on the men's and women's sides who have come through here. And of course, at Louisiana Tech, she was one of the best, and she played with a lot of other great players, as she said. So it's interesting if you kind of dig down deep into it and find that to be true. So I think she has a chance to add to that and build that back where it's all built. I mean, the only challenge remaining at Baylor is to win another title, which is considerable, but it's not what this is, and I think that plays a part.
Scott, last question for you here that we've got, and that's with this move and everything you've seen. Obviously, you broke the story first, and we're the first one on this, and really put it out there that Kim was going from Baylor to LSU. Have you had the chance since then, or even before then, around this, to talk to Kim Mulkey or Scott Woodward, and kind of what are you hearing from the horse's mouth that you can give us?
I haven't talked to Kim personally. I think she wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if she's not back in Waco right now. Trying to pack up her house and her office. I imagine there's a few mementos over the years that have to be boxed up and brought down to Baton Rouge. But I spoke to Scott Woodward yesterday, and I think he was. I don't think they were probably thinking this. Well, first of all, they weren't thinking they're making a hire. And he said he was going to bring Nikki Fargas back for next year. Once she let them know she was leaving, I don't know if he thought that they could go after someone so big. I heard they were after another sitting head coach and maybe an assistant coach somewhere, and that would have been fine. If LSU had said, look, we brought in this person, and he or she is going to be the next big thing in women's basketball, and you probably would have gone with that. But I think the opportunity presented itself. He said, look, you have to try, and if you fail, then what have you lost? And I think that was thinking here. But I think it really enhances his reputation as an athletic director if he has to make other big hires in the future, like in football, men's basketball, or baseball. And another thing, LSU is dealing with a lot of things right now off the court that Baylor dealt with a few years ago around the Art Briles years and everything. A lot of accusations, rightly so, of mishandled sexual conduct cases and battery and stuff like that, not only involving athletics, but university-wide. And this is a big problem. And to bring her in, kind of transcends a lot of things. It says, look, here is a commitment there's things that have changed this university, and it's true. And she kind of mentioned it at her press conference too. But here's a commitment that we're making to women's basketball and women's athletics at the highest level that you can imagine. And I think that's very telling. And I think that's something I've got from Scott. And I think that's a commitment that Kim had to see to leave a place where she felt very, very comfortable. I just don't buy that she was totally unhappy or disenchanted at Baylor and was looking for an out. I really, just from everything I've gathered, this is the one place she would have come to, and the job opened up, and that's unfortunate for Baylor in a way, but obviously she leaves a program that is in very good shape, and will it has a very good chance to win in the years to come.
Scott, I'm so glad you said that. I think it's a point that many of us have been lost on in the last couple of days, last week or so, is the fact that she was not looking for a way out. That if there was another job out there, however big that job may have been, she would not have left Baylor. This was not her trying to go anywhere to get out of Waco. She wasn't disgruntled to the point where she was done. This was an opportunity it very well played into her being able to go home and be around family in Louisiana and be in a new environment that she knows, a new old environment. But Scott, thank you so much for coming on our show today. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure. It was all ours, Scott. Thanks so much for coming on and dropping some knowledge on us. And we're excited to hopefully track some more of Coach Mulkey's success and get you back on here in the near future.
My pleasure. And I got to say, seeing what Baylor put on their website, thanking her for all the years, I thought that was extremely classy. You don't see that at very many schools. And I think Baylor's administration and the fans, I know there's going to be some hard feelings and some hurt feelings, sure. But I think they deserve a lot of credit for having that reaction and thanking her for, you can't erase all the great years. There's a lot of love-hate with Nick Saban around here because he has LSU has to play them every year in football, right? And so, but he didn't leave here to go straight there. He left there to go to the NFL. But he started something that continues to this day, the golden age of LSU football. And I think Baylor fans, once they get through the initial feelings, will find that that's probably something that's true for them as well.
Man.
Awesome.
Well, Scott, thanks again. Pleasure to have you. And like JD said, when the old Baton Rouge Bengals are playing against our Baylor Bears, how many B's can you put in there? When they're playing in the national championship against one another, we'll make sure to have you on again if that's all right with you.
Anytime. Thank you.
I love it. Again, that was Scott Rabalais talking Baylor, Kim Mulkey, and Louisiana State University in that move. He broke the news. Scott from The Advocate in Baton Rouge. Pleasure having him on. Great get.
Man, it's a group effort at Up-Tempo.
Great to have him.
Happy to contribute a little bit.
Good to have him. Well, I'll tell you what, when we come back, we're going to take a couple calls here. We're going to talk a little bit about who's next. And I want to give you guys some insight on Molly Miller. This is a name that I've now become very privy to in the last 24 hours or so, the more I saw on some message boards that it came up. And to this point, I have not heard that Mac or Molly and anybody that have had conversation, but still, I want to give some folks a recap because it's a name people are talking about. It's a name that I like.
Yeah.
So I'm Drake Toll, it's J.D. Pickell, Armstrong Sims. When we come back, a little bit of who's next talk because it's time to move on, baby. Don't go anywhere. This is Up-Tempo.
The search begins with a vacancy at the head coaching position for Baylor women's basketball for the first time in 21 years. Mack Rhoades has begun the evaluation of coaches across the country who could be viable candidates for the Lady Bear job. Names such as assistant coach Satia Messer and Georgia coach Joni Miller have gained immense amounts of traction as two candidates on the forefront of the search. It's expected that university will name a successor for the former coach by the early part of next week. Outside of women's basketball, they are red hot. The Baylor baseball team dominated one of the Southern Conference's top teams, defeating Prairie View A&M 14-0 at Baylor Ballpark. It was the sixth shutout of the year for the team as they improved to 20-3 at home. As Steve Rodriguez and company have now won 14 of 17 games and have solidified a legitimate postseason resume as the year wanes. On the softball side, the Lady Bears ran into an absolute buzzsaw. Number 1 Oklahoma was just too much for the team to handle as Glenmore and company fell in Game 1 7-1 and Game 2 11-0. Oklahoma improved to 39-1 on the season and 14-0 in Big 12 play. While Baylor did retire the first 13 batters of Game 1 and had a one-run lead in the fourth, it's tough to stop the hottest team in the nation. In NCAA news, President Mark Emmert was granted a contract extension through 2025 on Tuesday by the association's Board of Governors. And Iowa hooper Jordan Bohannon is staying with his school to return for a sixth season. He's the career record holder in assists, three-pointers made, and games played in school history. 5 years will do it for you. And Ole Miss has fired its offensive line coach Randy Clements literally just a couple days after the team's spring game. Lane Kiffin told media it was strictly for football reasons that he was let go. I'm Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. It's been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up-Tempo.
At Baylor University, students can shine in their own way. Or should we say their own ways? Because there's no limit to the ways Baylor students make the world a brighter place. Whether they're leading a student organization or following a higher calling, getting advice from faculty, or taking part in world-class research, pursuing their dreams, or working toward their dream job, students find their place to shine at Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Car has the trucks, man. They have the one for you. Crew cab, short or long bed, silver, black or blue. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, he has the truck for you. Carr has the trucks, man. He has the truck you need. If you want the best truck, you want a GMC. Texas size selection, great prices too. Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
If you or a loved one or friend has been arrested and you can't afford bail, trust Terry and Chase Chapman at Chapman's Bail Bonds, covering Waco and McLennan County for over 25 years. Chapman's can bail you out anywhere with experienced, knowledgeable local agents who are committed to serving you professionally, respectfully, and with the highest integrity. Chapman's understands your privacy is important. Your freedom can be secured fast when you use Chapman's Bail Bonds. Open 24 hours a day, payment arrangements available. Call Chapman's Bail Bonds. When you need help, 254-754-1603. When you ring, we'll spring.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Listen, in the past couple of years, we've had a lot of people moving in from out of state to Waco thanks to Chipper and JoJo. And while we welcome these new citizens, they unfortunately brought some of their bad habits with them. Hi, Jay here from Pickup Outfitters, and you know what I'm talking about. Naked trucks. You'd think everyone moved here from McNewtville. But we shouldn't judge them, we should help them. For example, when you see a recent transplant truck from a less civilized state like California, instead of saying, "Your truck is disgusting, your bed is exposed, get a bed cover on that truck, buddy," that's a bit harsh. Instead, try something like, "You know, in Texas, it's not polite to drive around with your bed exposed. Maybe you should check out the excellent selection of bed covers at Pickup Outfitters." And then if they refuse, you can say, "Well, I hear New Mexico's a nice state." Let's help our new neighbors and let them know that truck nudity is not okay. Let them know about Pickup Outfitters of Waco and send them to our website, createacommotion.com.
Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
Cynthia, Jesus died for our Cynthias.
Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122.
Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts.
Now back to the Bears Den with Drake Toll.
Welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. I'm Drake Toll alongside Armstrong Sims. 94. It's a significant number. 94 is the year the Arkansas Razorbacks won a national championship in men's basketball. I remember that. Some other stuff happened in 94. I think my parents graduated high school, maybe. Some other things happened in the 90s. How about 91.5? Is that number significant to you at all, 91.5? Talking about numbers in the 90s. 91.5.
Parents graduated high school in 94.
Yeah. What?
Okay.
91.5. Is that number significant to you at all?
91.5?
Yep.
No.
That's Molly Miller, head coach of Grand Canyon's women's basketball team. That is her career win percentage, 91.5%. It is number one of all active coaches, no matter their division. She guided Drury University, Division II Drury University, 32-0 record in the 2018-2019 season. They were the number one team every week of the Division II poll of the NCAA tournament. That was prior. So that was a 2019-2020 season, 32-0 going into the postseason. Season canceled, obviously, in Division II. They would have won a national championship there at Drury University. She was an athlete. She played at Drury as well, an alumni, and then ended up coaching the team and taking them to heights that the university had never seen before, winning again almost 92% of her games at Drury. Last season at Grand Canyon, she helped build a program already. Year number one at Grand Canyon, she was able to build something. Molly Miller has now become one of the hottest names in this coaching search that, again, we can't verify whether or not she's had conversations with the program here at Baylor, the administration here at Baylor. But we do know if there's anybody that we at the studio are honing in on right now for someone that could be a legitimate candidate, a viable candidate at Baylor, it's got to be Molly Miller. You make a hire like this, it's not a splash. It's not somebody that everybody in national media is talking about, that Molly Miller is the next head coach at Baylor University, and it's going to be a huge hire, and she's going to bring 15 crazy good recruits with her to Baylor. Not the case necessarily. Not as it would be with a Joni Taylor. But she's reminiscent of a young Kim Mulkey. A lot of folks have said that. If you want that same fire and passion, if you want a coach who's going to toss the jacket, be clapping, loud, energy, Molly Miller is that coach. She's 34 years old, family woman. She's a Christian. She's coaching at Grand Canyon University, which is a private Christian college. She's been there for one season, and she's already left her mark. Last season at Grand Canyon, they went 18-7 overall. That was her first season. I want to take you back to the season before that, where Grand Canyon was just 15-12, the season before she came there. The year before that, 2018-2019, Grand Canyon was 7-20. So she's 2 years removed, just 2 years removed at a program that had 7 wins on a season. She walks into Grand Canyon year one, takes them all the way to the championship game of their conference in the WAC tournament, losing to California Baptist, who was the 1 seed, a great California Baptist team, I should say. Went 18-7 in her first season at the helm of a Division I school. Grand Canyon, not historically great at women's basketball either. Molly Miller walks in and says, I'll do you a favor. I'll win some ball games right away, put my name in the map, and I've got a 92% career win percentage, which is nuts. It's currently number one amongst any active coaches on the men's or women's side in collegiate basketball, no matter their division. So I think you'd be remiss if you didn't put a name like that in the hat. Young. You want young because you want to be able to sustain a coach for multiple years. You hire a 70-year-old coach. What do you got him for 5 years? You want somebody who can come in. The ideal coach, to me, is a coach that can walk into a program, spend 20 years at that program, win for 20 years, go 30, go 40, be a lifer, and do a lot for the university, do a lot for the school, do a lot for the program. Molly Miller is that at the age of just 34 right now. You add to it, she's fiery. She's got a lot of passion and energy. She's young, and she reminds me a lot, again, of the solid, the best attributes of Kim Mulkey that made her so much fun, so engaging on the sidelines, and so loved by players. She's somebody, Molly Miller, that you want on your court, you want on your sideline. You don't want to face them because they have that brash, outgoing personality. You're like, I want to beat them because they're cool and they have swagger. She is that. She's who you want on your sidelines. Get to know Molly Miller, head coach at Grand Canyon University, and what she has brought to that university and what she could bring to Baylor. She was Division II Coach of the Year 2 seasons in a row, leading Drury University to 67-1 records. I get it. D2, but in some regards, it is I don't want to say it's tougher to win in D2 because it's not, but work with me here in the fact that I say it's tougher to recruit a lot of times in D2 in the way that it's really it's hard to sell your brand when you're competing for athletes that could possibly play Division I. Like, how tough is it to sustain really good winning seasons in the D2 when the players that are playing for you are elite, should be elite for D2 level? Most of them are going Division I, right? So it's really tough to be able to try to recruit players to stay D2, play for you, win a national championship. She was able to do that at a sustained level. Listen to these numbers. 67-1 in her last 2 seasons at Drury University and 180 wins combined compared to 17 losses at Drury University. She was unbelievable, remarkable. She knows how to win. Under Miller, the Drury Panthers played fast and full court. It's fun to watch. Scored 90 points per game, forced 31 turnovers per game. 180 wins, 17 losses, 90 points per game, forced 31 turnovers per game. That's not just like one time. That would be a lead for a team like a Baylor, an elite college basketball team. I don't think you can do that at Division I level at Baylor. But to force 25 would be nuts. I'd take that 100%. 31 is unconscious. Unconscious. She was third-team All-American as a player, too. She's a player. She's a player. She said as a player, she was an ankle biter. I just had to go out there and get after it. You know who would say that? That sounds just like Kim Mulkey. Molly Miller, current head coach, Grand Canyon University. Strong Christian, family woman, brings in a winning pedigree and could be a great pickup or someone that Baylor should at least look at because that could be the future. Molly Miller could very well be the future of women's college basketball if, say, she moves into a new role in Division I where she can win at a high level, a high rate, and possibly contend for national championships. Maybe she does that at Baylor University. Maybe Baylor's the one that takes a chance and might just work out because I tell you what, there are very few coaches who can win like that at any level. That is remarkable. That is unbelievable what Molly Miller has done as a young head coach. She's a diamond in the rough. Somebody's going to get a great head coach when they hire Molly Miller. And again, maybe it's Baylor University that takes that chance and brings in Miller. When we come back on the other side of this break, Morgan Uber, who works for the Big 12 digital correspondent, joins our show to talk about Kim Mulkey's departure from Baylor, what it means for the conference, and the fraternity of head coaches in the conference. Following that, Mike Neighbors, the head coach of the University of Arkansas women's basketball program, who beat Kim Mulkey last season, will join the show and talk about what adding Mulkey to the SEC does for the league. I'm Drake Toll, that's Armstrong Sims. When we come back, Morgan Uber from the Big 12 joins the show. Don't go anywhere. This is Up Tempo.
The search begins with a vacancy at the head coaching position for Baylor women's basketball for the first time in 21 years. Mack Rhoades has begun the evaluation of coaches across the country who could be viable candidates for the Lady Bear job. Names such as assistant coach Satia Messer and Georgia coach Joni Miller have gained immense amount of traction as 2 candidates on the forefront of the search. It's expected that university will name a successor for the former coach by the early part of next week. Outside of women's basketball, they are red hot. The Baylor baseball team dominated one of the Southern Conference's top teams, defeating Prairie View A&M 14-0 at Baylor Ballpark. It was the 6th shutout of the year for the team as they improved to 20-3 at home. As Steve Rodriguez and company have now won 14 of 17 games and have solidified a legitimate postseason resume as the year wanes. On the softball side, the Lady Bears ran into an absolute buzzsaw. Number 1 Oklahoma was just too much for the team to handle as Glenn Moore and company fell in Game 1 7-1 and Game 2 11-0. Oklahoma improved to 39-1 on the season and 14-0 in Big 12 play, while Baylor did retire the first 13 batters of Game 1 and had a 1-run lead in the 4th. It's tough to stop the hottest team in the nation. In NCAA news, President Mark Emmert was granted a contract extension through 2025 on Tuesday by the association's Board of Governors. And Iowa hooper Jordan Bohannon is staying with his school to return for a 6th season. He's the career record holder in assists, 3-pointers made, and games played in school history. 5 years will do it for you. And Ole Miss has fired its offensive line coach Randy Clements literally just a couple days after the team's spring game. Lane Kiffin told media it was strictly for football reasons that he was let go. I'm Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. It's been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up Tempo.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones Whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new Lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
It's a name and a memory that called us back. It's a belief and a labor that will carry us forward. It's a time and experience that will make you return. The new Bear Ridge Golf Club, a space revitalized, a course restored, a new experience. For a tee time today, call the Pro Shop at 254-848-7800. Go to BearRidgeWaco.com, just south of Waco on Highway 84. Come join us at Bear Ridge Golf Club.
At Marco's Pizza, get craveable pizza made the Italian way with dough made from scratch, an original sauce recipe, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and premium toppings you love, served hot and safe. Right now, you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Why stop at just one? Order with your app or at marcos.com for curbside, carryout, or delivery today. Marco's, pizza lovers get it.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
No capes. Do you remember Thunderhead? Tall, storm powers. Nice man. Good with the kids.
Listen. Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122.
Dyna guy, snag on takeoff. Splashdown, sucked into a vortex. No kicks.
Here's Drake Toll and Armstrong Sims.
Welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. It's Wednesday. Search is on for the new head coach for the Baylor Lady Bears as they try to replace Kim Mulkey, who is off. She's sailing away to purpler pastures in Louisiana State University. Outside of that, Baylor baseball in action last night, 14-0 win against Prairie View A&M. Softball fell against Oklahoma in a doubleheader. And we're now joined by Morgan Uber, Big 12 correspondent, to help us unpack all of it. Morgan, this is supposed to be the time of year where things kind of start dying down a little bit. You got some laser focus on baseball, softball, but no. It's just busy as it's ever been.
Yeah, Drake, thanks as always for having me. And as you mentioned, this is the time when we really focus in on our spring sports, but the coaching carousel, just when we thought Chris Beard leaving Texas Tech for Texas was the craziest thing that's happened this offseason, we have another just crazy bomb dropped on us with Kim Mulkey leaving for LSU to take on a new challenge there. So looking forward to unpacking all of it with you.
Morgan, from a Big 12 standpoint, Baylor's losing the greatest coach in program history, women's basketball history at the school. They're also losing what I would call the greatest coach in Baylor history. No one else has 3 national championships. No one else has the repertoire of wins or has done as much for the athletic program, in my opinion. And that is debatable. I could be very wrong in saying that. I don't want to ruffle feathers in saying that. But I do want to know from your perspective how that changes the dynamic of this fraternity of coaches in the Big 12 on the side of women's basketball.
What Kim Mulkey had done at Baylor, just turning around a program completely who had never even been to the NCAA tournament, 3 national titles, in her span there, turning Baylor women's basketball into a blue blood. A program, I lived in the Northeast for 3.5 years and people knew Baylor women's it was Baylor women's basketball and UConn's women's basketball. That's what, it was all about, even up there. So people knew, and it was a nationwide thing. And her legacy, I think with Coach Mulkey leaving Baylor, it does, lose a little bit of Baylor athletics history with her departure. Being at a place for 21 years. But I will say the thing that I've been, really surprised to see, and, I know you can probably speak to this a little more and probably even better than I, but just the fans' gratitude. I think a lot of people could, look at this and be really upset. And I'm sure there are a lot of fans that do feel that way. But overall, from what I've seen on social media, it's, really just been a recognition and gratitude of everything that she did there with the Baylor athletics program. And I think the only positive, truly thing that I can say with her departure leaving the Big 12 is I guess it creates a little bit more parity in this league. You look at over the past 11 years, they were 11 straight Big 12 regular season championships. Just absolutely unprecedented, the success that she had here in this conference against some extremely, talented coaches, talented teams, but each year was able to just string together these outstanding seasons. So it'll be really interesting, to see what happens, who Mack Rhoades is able to get and bring in to lead this program. But I certainly do think when you have Kim Mulkey as your coach, that adds probably at least, 5-6 wins with what she's able to do and her knowledge and, also her recruiting success as well.
Morgan, in the span of just 2 years, the Big 12 went from having Kim Mulkey, Karen Aston, and Sherry Cole all on sidelines in the conference to all 3 of them now being away from their respective schools, one of them being away from the game entirely. And that has surely changed the dynamic of women's basketball in the Big 12. But now, if you're a coach like Mike Carey at West Virginia, a coach especially Bill Fennelly at Iowa State, and Vic Schaefer at Texas, are you licking your chops? Is the Big 12 wide open now that Kim Mulkey's gone?
Those were literally the 3 names, the 3 programs that come top of mind that I do think are immediately going to have success with the departure of Coach Mulkey, and 3 programs that are ready to make a run here in this conference. I do think Bill Fennelly at Iowa State, if I had to, put a finger on it right now at this point, just the young talent, the young group that he is coming back, plus, a veteran in Ashley Jones who's going to be a senior next year. With that combination combination of those 3 freshmen they started plus, Jones, I think that it's looking good for Iowa State, which is pretty crazy considering, if you had asked me 2 weeks ago, you think about Baylor women's basketball having Nalissa Smith back, a player who, potentially could be a national player of the year, next season. But who knows, I've been following along with her social media and, who knows where she'll end up, what she's going to do. But it certainly changes the dynamic of the conference and things on the women's basketball side. But again, I think it'll be really interesting, and I try to remain optimistic and excited. And I just think it will create, some exciting opportunities for other teams to, finally start making strides and catching up to the success that Coach Mulkey had there at Baylor.
Morgan, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the parity that you talked about in the Big 12 with Kim Mulkey being gone, how that kind of opens up a little bit more. When I look over the SEC, I see teams like Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, on and off, Georgia now with Joni Taylor, and that's without mentioning Mississippi State or South Carolina, Arkansas, that have been powerhouses, contenders in their conference. There's a lot of parity in that conference. Is it better for the Big 12 as a whole to have a team, one dominant team that wins 11 straight championships and is on the national scale like Baylor, or do you want that competition? What drives a conference more?
That is a great question, Drake. And the way that I see it, when you have a Hall of Fame coach, a legend like Kim Mulkey, that's certainly a great thing for this conference. And I do think it's, it does take a little bit of a hit losing someone like her, especially to, all conferences to the SEC. But, for me, as someone who is a journalist and covers the conference, I can speak from my perspective. And I think, it does make things a little bit more exciting each night, any given night. It's really going to, be some great competition. And it was almost a slam dunk every year who the regular season champ was going to be in the Big 12. And everyone was chasing Baylor, chasing, their strides and their perfection. But, that was a story in and of itself. But I guess, now it's just a completely new story that I'll get to tell and unravel. So it's something that, for me, just like Kim Mulkey, she's taken on a new challenge down there in Baton Rouge. It's going to be a new challenge for me in covering women's basketball. So I'm looking forward to it. But, I'm not going to speak to, I guess, what it does for the conference and, how our administrators in the conference view it. But from my perspective, I do think it's exciting and it's a new challenge.
Morgan, along with that, you talked about administrators of the Big 12. I want to go to administrators that are at respective schools, and that is Mack Rhoades at Baylor. He made the hire of no, he can't hire himself. He made the hire of Matt Rule to be the football coach to take Baylor out of scandal into 11 wins in just a third season. And when he hired Matt Rule, everyone said a collective who. And it ended up working out better than anyone could have imagined. Mack Rhoades has also made hires. Look on the tennis side, Brian Boland, he was able to pry away, who was one of the biggest names in the country. While it didn't work out in the end, that hire was huge. There are a couple different where you say, hey, Mack did a great job. The Aranda hire even is starting to look better and better by the day. How much confidence do you have in Mack Rhoades, the athletic director at Baylor, in making this hire? Because there are still a lot of people that are questioning his ability to do this.
I've got all the confidence in what Mack Rhoades is going to do here. You mentioned his most recent hire and Dave Aranda. I mean, prying the defensive coordinator away from, a national championship, just coming, fresh off a national championship in football. I mean, I do think you got to give him a couple years here to get something going, especially coming in last year with not having a spring. But on the women's basketball side of things, I was listening in before I came on about your Molly Miller takes, and that excites me. I mean, potential there, a young coach who, potentially could be a similar story to a Kim Mulkey, get her in and have her come to a place, be here for a long time and have sustained success. I think, as an athletic director, I have obviously never been one, but I've talked to enough of them. And I think that's their goal, right? Get them to a place where they can be for a long period of time and have sustained success over that long period of time. So, I think there are plenty of names. I think, what Kim Mulkey did, it's obviously, a job that, many would want, coming down to Waco and taking over a team that has, 3 national titles and 11 straight Big 12 regular season championships. So I do think some interesting names are going to be floating. I'm really curious to see who he brings in. There's a lot of speculation out there about, a few different names who are top of the list. But, at the end of the day, I don't think any of us truly know what's going on behind the scenes there other than Mack Rhoades and his staff. But whoever they get, it's going to be definitely a different it's going to be a difference for a few years, especially when you have someone that's been there for 21 years and for the fan base to have to maybe adapt to that and take someone a little bit to get their, recruiting, success, what Kim Mulkey did there. So, I do have a lot of faith in what he's going to be able to do and have no doubt it's going to be a great hire there for Baylor.
Morgan, along with it, and this is kind of where I want to end when it comes to the women's basketball and coaching search and move over to baseball and softball following this. But the names that have come out, Joni Taylor has been one at Georgia for the possibility of vacancy. We've heard Satia Messer, the assistant here at Baylor, or Bill Brock maybe. And then the Molly Miller, like we talked about. From your perspective, when you look across the realm of women's college basketball, is there a name or two that you really like to make a move up to be the head coach at Baylor?
Yeah, you mentioned Joni Taylor there at Georgia, and, I think that would be a really intriguing one. But I did read a little bit about, from the comments that she made earlier to the media this week, it didn't sound too promising that was a name that they were going to be able to get. Another one, though, there in the state of Georgia, Nell Fortner at Georgia Tech, who played at Texas. So, has some ties to the state of Texas. I think that could be, a really exciting hire. And then the Molly Miller name. So I think those are three that I have my, eyes on, and I'm going to be, who knows, there could be even more names that are floating around that we don't know about. But I think those are three that have come top of mind when I've done, my research and seen things across social media.
Morgan, moving over to baseball, the Baylor baseball team is red hot right now. Coming off of the win against Prairie View A&M last night, one of the best teams in the Southern Conference, and you can say, well, okay, I could probably beat Prairie View A&M. Come on, why are you bragging about that? Well, turn your attention to this past weekend where they knocked off Texas Tech, number 5 Texas Tech, on the road. First time a team has won a series in Lubbock since 2018. I mean, this Baylor baseball team under Steve Rodriguez is hot, and unexpectedly so.
Last week when we were talking, Drake, I told you that this Baylor team, had the potential to go out and have a big statement series over Texas Tech, and they did exactly that, outscoring the Red Raiders 26-8. They've won 14 of their last 17, a team playing with so much confidence right now. I mean, it's their bats and also their pitching. But I think, it's really interesting when you look at their schedule. Now they're going to a 10-day pause. They don't have any games until May 7th against Kansas State. So you think, okay, what is this going to do to Baylor? Or, they had all this momentum. They had been building off of each win, each series. And that, really, especially after you beat a team like Texas Tech, something that Baylor hadn't done, beating a top 5 team on the road since 2010, I believe it was. So, 2005. So this definitely was, a good opportunity for them to continue building on this momentum, but definitely an unfortunate time as their schedule falls with this 10-day break. But, I do think it was a little bit of disrespect to the Baylor Bears not being ranked in the coaches poll, the top 25. So maybe that's going to add a little bit of fuel to the fire. They did receive votes, but didn't sneak their way in after, defeating Texas Tech. So I think if there's one thing that you take out of that, these guys are going to have a chip on their shoulder, and, they're looking to make it to the College World Series. And right now they're one of those bubble teams, but I do think that series win over Texas Tech definitely helped their case.
Morgan, along with that, you got series against Kansas State coming up. Like you talked about, you got the big break. Then you play them May 7th. After Kansas State, there's Incarnate Word, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma. Those 3 conference teams, State, and OU, all 3 are on the bottom half of the Big 12. If Baylor's able to go in there, win 7 or 8 of those, does this team have a chance to even host a regional this season?
That's, you asked me that, and that's even crazy that we're talking about this with the way that their season started. But sure, why not? I do think that they have a potential to, even win out the rest of the way that they've played. I mean, Oklahoma State, that's probably their toughest series that's left on the year. That'll be definitely their toughest games left to play. But if they're playing the way that they have, and if Jared McKenzie, it continues to do what he's done and continues to impress, number 2 in the nation in runs, number 2 in the nation and hits. I think we got a glimpse of just how special he was last year, but I think him and this Baylor team as a whole has just continued to get better as the season has gone on. So I do think it's going to be really intriguing to look at what happens that first game against Kansas State, that first series, how they come out, what that break did for them. But it's not off the table for them to be able to host a regional, but they are predetermined sites this year. So it is a little bit different how the College World Series is working. But nothing's out of the question at this point.
Morgan, on the softball side, Baylor softball met Oklahoma last night after winning a series against Iowa State in Ames this past weekend. And it's a buzzsaw Oklahoma team. They're 39-1 now, undefeated in Big 12 play. I think they've won some odd 60 or 70 straight Big 12. It's something nuts. It is nuts what Oklahoma's done right now. Is this maybe the best softball team that we've seen in Big 12 history?
I do think it potentially could be. And when you talk to head coach Patty Gasso before the season started, she had an inkling from what she saw from her team that she thought that this offense, could be the most special in Oklahoma softball history. And, this is a program that has 3 national championships. When you look at their numbers, they're number 1 in batting average, first in runs per game. They have the best on base percentage. They're number 1 in home runs. What they did in that doubleheader against Georgia, they had their 40-game win streak snapped that was dated all the way back to last season. But the way they came out in the second game of that doubleheader, they end up going 12-3. They win in 5 innings. Just absolutely remarkable. And that's what we've seen from the Sooners all season. And that's a little bit of, what they did against the Baylor program yesterday. But I do think they do have the potential to, win the entire thing this year. They are the best team in the country. Like I told you last week, it is Oklahoma softball and the rest of the field. So I do think that loss against Georgia was a little bit good for them. And I talked to Jocelyn Allo, who leads the entire country in home runs. And that's what she told me. She said, this loss came at a good time, but we're not worried about wins and losses. We're worried about where we are in June, and we want to be number 1 in the country. And they have a swagger. They have a confidence about them. And I do think we're seeing something really incredible here. So definitely keep your eyes on the Sooners down the stretch.
Morgan, thanks so much as always for coming on the show today. And man, I got a Bear Games question, but it's the MVP of the spring game. And I know the spring game didn't get much attention outside of Baylor, so I'm trying to think of a backup Bear Games question. No. Gosh dang it. Well, Morgan, thanks anyway. I'll have 2 Bear Games questions for you next week when we get to have you on again. Thanks as always for joining us. Pleasure, and hopefully we'll see you again next week with a new coach at the helm of the Baylor Lady Bear program.
Looking forward to talking about it next week with you, Drake. Thanks for having me.
As always, that was Morgan Uber, Big 12 digital correspondent, talking Baylor women's basketball and the possibility of where Baylor could move next and what it means for Kim Mulkey to be gone from the fraternity of coaches of the women's basketball side. I know there have been some comments that have been made out there on the YouTube chat, actually, that have talked about Molly Miller and what she could bring to the table here at Baylor, and I do think she'd be a great asset, and that's the question of if Molly Miller does come to Baylor, what does that mean for Satia Messer? Well, Satia Messer interviewing for the head coaching job at Baylor gives me an inkling that she is ready to be a head coach at a university. Whether it be Baylor or somewhere else, she's ready to go for that venture again after 8 years removed from being the head woman on a sideline where she was at Tennessee Tech. So I don't know that if Molly Miller, I will speculate. Say Molly Miller gets the job at Baylor. I don't believe that Satia Messer does end up going to LSU. It sounds like Bill Brock is not. It sounds as though Bill Brock will either retire or be possibly on staff for a couple more years here in Waco. I don't think he's following Kim Mulkey. Mackenzie Fuller's not following Kim Mulkey. But Satia Messer has smelt blood in the water when it comes to being a head coach in women's college basketball again, and she deserves a head coaching position somewhere. Now, she does not have the head coaching wins that some coaches on the list do. Joni Taylor is more proven as a head coach than Satia Messer. To some extent, Molly Miller would be too. I know most of that has come from Division II, but Molly Miller, young, fiery, has the pedigree, the winning pedigree. Satia Messer saw some of that at Tennessee Tech, but also the fact that it didn't work out says a little bit about Messer and what went on there at the university. She's 8 years removed from that, though. It's time. It's time for her to be a head coach somewhere, if not at Baylor, if not right now at Baylor. I do believe that rather than going to Louisiana State with Kim Mulkey, Satia Messer will have a home somewhere as a head coach in women's college basketball pretty quickly. Now, we're later in the game right now. We're a little bit later in the game. So if, say, the Messer doesn't get the head coaching job and she's not able to go find another head coaching job because we're so late in the game, I would not be opposed to a Joni Taylor coming in, and they're going to have to pay Joni Taylor $1.25 million. Molly Miller's not going to demand that much. She might not demand anything. She will probably come in and make $800,000 to $1 million. And in that case, I would love a case in where Joni Taylor or Molly Miller is given that shot to be the head coach at Baylor, her associate head coach be Satia Messer, and you say, hey, as the associate head coach, maybe you're not the head coach, but we'll still give you $750,000, $800,000, $900,000 to stay at Baylor. Because if you've got that great head coach, proven winner head coach at the helm of your program, and you retain Satia Messer, now you're going to retain a lot of those players that are currently on the roster, and on top of that, you're going to be able to continue to recruit at a high level, whether those players be from Louisiana, whether they be from Texas. Satia Messer still being in the program is going to help recruiting for Baylor. And I think at all costs, Mack Rhoades and whoever the next head coach is, if it is not, because it still could be, if it is not Satia Messer, needs to keep her on staff if at all possible, because the continuity in having her and Bill Brock would be spectacular. We got Jason in Fort Worth. Jason, I see you there, but we got to hit a break coming up. Jason, try to call us back maybe around the 1:30 mark, because when we come back from this break, we're joined by one of my all-time favorites. He's somebody I know personally and someone that beat both Kim Mulkey and Gino Auriemma this time last year. It was last year, not this time, but last year. It's Mike Neighbors, the head coach of the University of Arkansas Razorbacks. Fun fact, Scott Woodward, the athletic director at Louisiana State University, is good friends with Mike Neighbors. Well, how do I know that? Woodward hired Neighbors when he was the athletic director at Washington, and Neighbors followed Woodward there to Washington, went to a Final Four as the head coach of the Lady Huskies, and Neighbors is now back home at the University of Arkansas. Kim Mulkey's being added into a fraternity of great head coaches across the SEC, great programs in the SEC, and I want to get the thoughts of some of these SEC coaches on what they expect when they have to face Kim Mulkey once or twice a year, every year, now that she's in their conference. What does it mean that Kim Mulkey has burst the bubble of a great fraternity of coaches in the SEC women's basketball game? I don't know, but Mike Neighbors, the head coach of the Arkansas Lady Razorbacks, can tell us on the other side of this break. I'm Drake Toll, that's Armstrong Sims. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're joined by Mike Neighbors. He's going to talk to us about Kim Mulkey and her coming to the SEC. This is Up Tempo.
The search begins with a vacancy at the head coaching position for Baylor women's basketball for the first time in 21 years. Mack Rhoades has begun the evaluation of coaches across the country who could be viable candidates for the Lady Bear job. Names such as assistant coach Satia Messer and Georgia coach Joni Miller have gained immense amounts of traction as two candidates on the forefront of the search. It's expected that university will name a successor for the former coach by the early part of next week. Outside of women's basketball, they are red hot. The Baylor baseball team dominated one of the Southern Conference's top teams, defeating Prairie View A&M 14-0 at Baylor Ballpark. It was the sixth shutout of the year for the team as they improved to 20-3 at home. As Steve Rodriguez and company have now won 14 of 17 games and have solidified a legitimate postseason resume as the year wanes. On the softball side, the Lady Bears ran into an absolute buzzsaw. Number 1 Oklahoma was just too much for the team to handle as Glenmore and company fell in Game 1 7-1 and Game 2 11-0. Oklahoma improved to 39-1 on the season and 14-0 in Big 12 play. While Baylor did retire the first 13 batters of Game 1 and had a one-run lead in the fourth, it's tough to stop the hottest team in the nation. In NCAA news, President Mark Emmert was granted a contract extension through 2025 on Tuesday by the association's Board of Governors. And Iowa hooper Jordan Bohannon is staying with his school to return for a 6th season. He's the career record holder in assists, three-pointers made, and games played in school history. 5 years will do it for you. And Ole Miss has fired its offensive line coach, Randy Clements, literally just a couple days after the team's spring game. Lane Kiffin told media it was strictly for football reasons that he was let go. I'm Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. It's been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up-Tempo.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
It's a name and a memory that called us back. It's a belief and a labor that will carry us forward. It's a time and experience that will make you return. The new Bear Ridge Golf Club, a space revitalized, a course restored, a new experience. For a tee time today, call the Pro Shop at 254-848-7800. Go to BearRidgeWaco.com, just south of Waco on Highway 84. Come join us at Bear Ridge Golf Club.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at TexasTrialLawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
What you do in privacy is your own business. What you do in public with your truck, well, that's our business at Pickup Outfitters. In your garage, it's okay for your truck to parade around in the nude with no accessories. Hey, this is still America. But when you bring your truck out in public, it's just common decency to put an outfit on your truck. And that's where we come in at Pickup Outfitters. Put a cover on that bed. Cover your rear end with a bumper and a hitch, for goodness sakes. There are women and children on the roads. And guys, don't leave your tools exposed. Put them in a toolbox. Be proud of your truck and stand tall with a lift kit. Or improve your truck's posture with a leveling kit. Add some class to your pickup with new wheels and tires. Or dress up for a date with your new RV or boat with a fifth wheel or a receiver hitch. At Pickup Outfitters, we're dedicating to making the roads decent for all Central Texans. So when taking your truck out in public, remember your manners and accessorize it properly with an outfit from Pickup Outfitters. 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobbettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasoning, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountains?
Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
Paulie, give me some of your tots. No, go find your own. Come on, give me some of your tots.
No, I'm freaking starved. I didn't get to eat anything today.
Call us on the Impact Health Labs caller line at 254-339-1122.
Warren, don't be jealous that I've been chatting online with Dave all day.
Your place for a Baylor take on your lunch break. Here's Drake Toll.
Welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears. Dan, happy Wednesday, everybody. Baylor women's basketball, again, we talked about it on the search for new head women's coach. And I can tell you, I got pretty good confidence that this guy joining the show momentarily, Mike Neighbors, will probably not be it. We've mentioned Molly Miller at Grand Canyon, Satia Messer, the assistant on staff here. Somebody asked earlier on the message board on YouTube, said, hey, you've got the possibility of hiring the same guy at Louisville who's taken them to a championship caliber. They made an appearance in the national championship game in the 2009 Division I tournament. That's Jeff Walz at Louisville. And I will tell you why Jeff Walz at Louisville is not coming to Baylor. And that is because, I don't know, I'll take you back to 2013 when Walz made comments about Kim Mulkey after a game with the Lady Bears. That was when Brittany Griner was the center for Kim Mulkey and company. It was Griner's senior season, if I remember correctly. And what happened is Walz came out and said, you know, I got a technical tonight, but I'm surprised you can't get a technical for ripping off your clothes. That was the game where there was the fake charge, and Kim Mulkey starts ripping off her jacket, and everybody went crazy over that. So the prospect of hiring Louisville's head coach, Jeff Walz, is probably at slim to none on your chances of guys that you would A, hire, or B, want to hire. So I don't know that Jeff Walz would even want to come to Baylor University. He's got a 386 and 107 career record. He's from Fort Thomas, Kentucky. He's 49 years old, so it'd be a great hire anywhere. But you're looking at a guy that Fort Thomas, Kentucky, right there. He's in Louisville. He's got a great pedigree at Louisville right now. He keeps winning year after year. The last couple of seasons, he's not lost more than 4 games since 2017. Went 26-4 this past year to the Elite Eight. He went to the Final Four in 2018. Just look at a slew of 30-win season, 36, 32. The season that was cut short is 28. He won 26 in the season that was 2020, 2021. So Jeff Walz is not a bad name to throw in that hat. However, I don't think you're going to be able to get a guy like that when it comes to the fact that he said some things about Kim Mulkey that she didn't appreciate, and then most folks didn't appreciate when it came to that 2013 tournament when Brittany Griner and company with Kim Mulkey were defeated by 5 seed Louisville and Jeff Walz's team. We're joined again up next by head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, Mike Neighbors. Let's see, just sent him a text. We're dealing with some Wi-Fi issues up in the Ozarks and the hills of northwest Arkansas, but got to have a conversation with him yesterday, and now going to get his perspective. Armstrong, if you don't mind, let's hit an old Armstrong's Minute and see if we can bring him on the other side of that.
The search begins with a vacancy at the head coaching position for Baylor women's basketball for the first time in 21 years. Mack Rhoades has begun the evaluation of coaches across the country who could be viable candidates for the Lady Bear job. Names such as assistant coach Satia Messer and Georgia coach Joni Miller have gained immense amount of traction as 2 candidates on the forefront of the search. It's expected that university will name a successor for the former coach by the early part of next week. Outside of women's basketball, they are red hot. The Baylor baseball team dominated one of the Southern Conference's top teams, defeating Prairie View A&M 14-0 at Baylor Ballpark. It was the 6th shutout of the year for the team as they improved to 20-3 at home. As Steve Rodriguez and company have now won 14 of 17 games and have solidified a legitimate postseason resume as the year wanes. On the softball side, the Lady Bears ran into an absolute buzzsaw. Number 1 Oklahoma was just too much for the team to handle as Glenmore and company fell in Game 1 7-1 and Game 2 11-0. Oklahoma improved to 39-1 on the season and 14-0 in Big 12 play, while Baylor did retire the first 13 batters of Game 1 and had a 1-run lead in the 4th. It's tough to stop the hottest team in the nation. In NCAA news, President Mark Emmert was granted a contract extension through 2025 on Tuesday by the association's Board of Governors. And Iowa hooper Jordan Bohannon is staying with his school to return for a 6th season. He's the career record holder in assists, 3-pointers made, and games played in school history. 5 years will do it for you. And Ole Miss has fired its offensive line coach Randy Clements literally just a couple days after the team's spring game. Lane Kiffin told media it was strictly for football reasons that he was let go. I'm Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. It's been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up Tempo.
Back back and still dealing with some audio issues, video issues from the foothills of Northwest Arkansas. Coach Mike Neighbors, still trying to get him on here. Before that, though, I do want to address, let us not skip over the fact that Baylor baseball 14-0 last night. I know we talked about that with the Big 12 digital correspondent Morgan Uber. The Bears completed their 6th shutout of the year last night against Prairie View A&M. Baylor's now 20-3 this season at Baylor Ballpark. They've won 14 of their last 17 games, scored double digits yesterday for the 11th time this season. They improved to 12-0 all-time against Prairie View A&M. Kaylee, first career win on the mound. That was the freshman who started the game for Baylor. True freshman Adam Muirhead made his Baylor debut as he threw one scoreless inning. Kyle Nevin and Jack Pineda hit career-high 2 doubles apiece. Pineda finished the night 3 for 5 with a career-high 4 runs and 2 RBI. Pineda came across the plate 4 times last night in 7 innings. Kate Currington went 2 for 2 with a career best 3 runs scored and 2 RBI. Kyle Nevin went 3 for 4 with a run scored and 2 RBI. And then Gonzalez hit 2 for 4 with 2 RBI and a run scored. 10-day break for Baylor baseball. They'll be back for a home series next week against Kansas State for May 7th through the 9th at Baylor Ballpark. So, well, yeah, you're stifling just a little bit of the momentum when you take a 10-day break. Also, you get some good rest before you go on to have to face Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma to round out your conference schedule. So maybe that rest is what's able to propel the Bears, because I'll tell you, if they finish 10-0, if they're able to win their next 10 games, which are very, very winnable, Incarnate Word is in there as well. If you pull that off, Baylor would then improve to 37-13. It's not impossible to win the next 10, too. Against 3 conference teams that are ranked lower than you in conference play, if Baylor even wins 8, then at that point you're 35-15, and you're flirting with the possibility of hosting a regional. Yeah. This same Baylor team that folks had picked 8th in the Big 12, flirting with the possibility of hosting a regional. That's for real. So when we come back, or I tell you what, let's hit it right here before we go to a break. I got highlights from the Baylor baseball game against Prairie View A&M. Check this out from last night's win, Baylor over PVAM.
You're watching Big 12 now on ESPN+. Tonight, from the banks of the Brazos, Baylor Ballpark in Waco, Texas, it's the Baylor Bears and the Panthers of Prairie View A&M.
That from Baylor baseball's win last night against Prairie View A&M, one of the hotter schools in the country, and a big night for Baylor men's tennis coming up on the other side of this weekend. You got men's and women's tennis both played in the Big 12 championship match, I should say, and the men won it. Outright conference champions. Will be joined by a player tomorrow and another player on Friday to talk about that conference championship win, what it means to Baylor, and what it means moving forward, as both expect to host. The men and the women expect to host moving forward into the tournament. We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines at 254-339-1122. Richard, I know we saw you in there earlier. Richard, give us a call back, 254-339-1122. I want to make sure we get to a couple of these. Had another caller on as well, who I think we just missed. Maybe been Jason, I think, who we missed from Fort Worth. Give us a call back, 254-339-1122. And then on the softball side of things last night, they posted up their highlights, and Baylor softball out-hit Oklahoma, just the third team to do so in game 1 of their doubleheader. They ended up losing 7-1, though. Baylor was up 1-0 after they scored in the first inning. Fast forward to the 4th. It was an error, a double play ball that was bobbled at shortstop that led to a game-changing grand slam for OU. Final score 7-1 in that one. Oklahoma just hits the ball so well. They're one of the best teams that I've ever seen play softball, and they showed it last night. Baylor softball has been on a pretty good tear, especially after losing 7 straight. They picked themselves back up, won 4 out of 5. They were looking solid, and then last night hit, and it just didn't click for Baylor, although they had a lead, had a shot to win the game, and couldn't capitalize in game 1 as Oklahoma had a grand slam off of a Baylor error and took that one from the Lady Bears in Waco. Outside of that, acrobatics and tumbling, again, national champions. I think we were kind of lost on the fact, and I hated that it got to this point, but we're lost on the fact that a lot of really awesome stuff has happened in Baylor athletics in the last couple of days, and we haven't been able to talk about it much. Well, considering the Kim Mulkey news, we've been struggling to talk about what we really need to, and, it's put some of the teams at Baylor on the back burner that probably shouldn't be. And that is something that I don't know if anybody can apologize for necessarily, but the news in the wake of Kim Mulkey leaving the university has overshadowed tennis, has overshadowed acrobatics and tumbling, baseball, softball, what those programs have done. And we want to make sure we give them the plug they deserve, because each of those teams has legitimate hopes for postseason berths. A&T just won a championship. Again, they're 6th in a row. And so shout out and credit to them. We've got Brandon calling us on the caller line. Brandon, am I saying that right? It's you, Brandon, right?
Yes, sir.
Hey, what's going on, my man? Thanks for calling the show today. What do you got for us?
Well, as a Tennessee Lady Vol fan, I just want to respect the program that Kim Mulkey built during her tenure. I think that Baylor fans should respect her, and I think they've done a good job of that. You know, as I recall, us losing Pat Summitt during her unexpected announcement, which with dementia and her turning the keys over to Holly Warlick, I mean, that was expected, but we didn't expect, for Holly to not sing the success that Pat did with her tenure.
Right.
And, it's hard to follow a legend. It is very hard. And Kim Mulkey is a legend in her rights. And whoever has the task and taking over the reins from Kim Mulkey as next head coach at Baylor will be a very hard job. And, Baylor fans just need to be patient, as us Tennessee fans were, and just give their head coach a chance. But the two most important things that the new head coach needs to look for Baylor is retaining her players. Y'all have a phenomenal team. Alyssa Smith, y'all pick up a really good transfer from Alabama in Jordan Lewis, who, averaged nearly 20 points a ball game. She scored over 1,600 points in her stint at Alabama. She's a really phenomenal player. Y'all are very lucky to have her. And number two is just continue to recruit hard, sustain the high school recruits that you have. Currently, I know that our new coach, Kelly Harper, she's had a tough time recruiting, but she's starting to pick up a little bit and on the recruiting scene as well. So what I had to say is, Baylor fans, y'all just be patient, and y'all are in good hands, because that team that y'all have is just a great, great ball club.
Well, Brandon, I want to first thank you for calling the show today and giving perspective from a Tennessee fan, because there's not a coach, in my opinion, that has ever done it like Pat Summitt did it, because what a lot of folks don't understand about Gino Auriemma is, and I firmly say, I will die on this hill, there is no Gino Auriemma, there is no national success for him and his program without Pat Summitt. And I think Gino would tell you the same thing. She was an innovator in the sport, and so to get the perspective of a Tennessee fan that followed that program is awesome, and I'm glad you called. I do want to ask you this, too. When it comes to a head coaching hire, we've heard the name Joni Taylor thrown out there, and she's from SEC country over there at Georgia. Is there anything you can tell us about her or give us some insight on?
Well, here's my honest opinion. I really don't think that Joni Taylor would have a shot at being the Baylor coach, just because I don't know if y'all are familiar with the SEC women's basketball, but Georgia was a powerhouse along with Tennessee, and Auburn was good back in the day too with Andy Landers. And Joni Taylor just got a contract extension, and they, took South Carolina to the brink in the SEC championship this past season. And, Joni Taylor, she's a young name. Her name is going to be brought up in a lot of coaching searches. I mean, they get back there to Jenna Staney. She's coming back for a fifth year. She withdrew from the WNBA draft. And Q Morrison, too, which is probably the best defender in the SEC. She's got a good ball club. It's going to take a lot for her to come to Baylor, but it's possible. I mean, anything is possible in this day and time, but I just don't see it. And the SEC, man, we have just got a whole lot tougher with Kim Mulkey coming. There's some other names that I would see from the SEC being thrown out. Nikki McCray-Penson is a good name. Dawn Staley, if you throw the right money at her, she might venture over from South Carolina to Baylor. You never know these days.
Well, I'll tell you, you say you never know. Look at Vic Schaefer. You're exactly right, because who would have seen Vic Schaefer going to UT? And he made that jump, and we'll see how that works out for her. Dawn, too. Dawn's a Philadelphia native. I mean, she's from Pennsylvania, so she doesn't have that hometown tie necessarily to being at South Carolina. You know, she went to Virginia, so I guess it's regional, but I think you're right. The right money. Maybe you got a shot at Dawn Staley, but anybody else out there? I know you sound very knowledgeable in women's college basketball. I'm so glad you're bringing that perspective to us, Brandon. Anybody else across the country you may look at and say, hey, they could be a viable option for Baylor to win with?
Well, I like the perspective that the Big 12 analyst gave earlier, Nell Fortner. I mean, Nell, she's phenomenal. I mean, I enjoyed her in the SEC with she had a little tidbit called Nell's Land. It was something like that. But the way that she took her team at Georgia Tech this year from a middle-of-the-pack team in the ACC to finishing third and then making some noise in the NCAA tournament, she's going to get a good look at that job. And I think that she's proven that she can win. I mean, she was an Olympic coach, I think, the year 2000, maybe. Don't quote me on that. But she's just a great person all around. And you know what? I think Kelly Harper at Tennessee will get a good look at this job, too. I don't think that she wants it, but she's definitely going to get a call. The way that she took the Tennessee Lady Ball team from, again, the middle pack of the SEC, finishing at third, and then, you know, you see Renata Davis, I mean, the evolution that she made from being going through 3 different head coaches during her tenure and then being the 4th pick in the WNBA draft. And she kind of reminds me of Alyssa Smith, the way that she plays and the way that she dogs on the defensive end. But it's just going to be really exciting to see how Baylor makes the right hire and then how they play next year with the new head coach.
It'll certainly be an interesting coaching search within the next week, Brandon. Hopefully this time next week we'll have a coach. Thank you for calling. Great to get your perspective. Glad you're watching the show today.
Yes, sir. Have a good day.
You too as well. Hopefully, on the other side of this break, we're trying to work out some, like I said, it's Northwest Arkansas. You never really know. You're in the middle of the Ozark Mountains, the foothills of those mountains, the University of Arkansas. It's up on the hill. It's up on the hill, and Wi-Fi doesn't always work out all right up there, but we're going to do our very best to try to get Mike Neighbors, the head coach of the University of Arkansas, on the show on the other side of this break to talk about what it means to have Kim Mulkey in the SEC, somebody that he'll face across the way once or twice every year moving forward. When we come back, Mike Neighbors, well, hopefully joins up tempo.
The search begins with a vacancy at the head coaching position for Baylor women's basketball for the first time in 21 years. Mack Rhoades has begun the evaluation of coaches across the country who could be viable candidates for the Lady Bear job. Names such as assistant coach Satia Messer and Georgia coach Joni Miller have gained immense amount of traction as 2 candidates on the forefront of the search. It's expected that university will name a successor for the former coach by the early part of next week. Outside of women's basketball, they are red hot. The Baylor baseball team dominated one of the Southern Conference's top teams, defeating Prairie View A&M 14-0 at Baylor Ballpark. It was the 6th shutout of the year for the team as they improved to 20-3 at home. As Steve Rodriguez and company have now won 14 of 17 games and have solidified a legitimate postseason resume as the year wanes. On the softball side, the Lady Bears ran into an absolute buzzsaw. Number 1 Oklahoma was just too much for the team to handle as Glenn Moore and company fell in Game 1 7-1 and Game 2 11-0. Oklahoma improved to 39-1 on the season and 14-0 in Big 12 play. While Baylor did retire the first 13 batters of Game 1 and had a 1-run lead in the 4th, it's tough to stop the hottest team in the nation. In NCAA news, President Mark Emmert was granted a contract extension through 2025 on Tuesday by the association's Board of Governors. And Iowa hooper Jordan Bohannon is staying with his school to return for a 6th season. He's the career record holder in assists, 3-pointers made, and games played in school history. 5 years will do it for you. And Ole Miss has fired its offensive line coach Randy Clements literally just a couple days after the team's spring game. Lane Kiffin told media it was strictly for football reasons that he was let go. I'm Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. It's been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up-Tempo.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
At Marco's Pizza, get craveable pizza made the Italian way with dough made from scratch, an original sauce recipe, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and premium toppings you love, served hot and safe. Right now, you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Why stop at just one? Order with your app or at marcos.com for curbside, carryout, or delivery today. Marco's, pizza lovers get it.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, and Balcones whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, rye, brimstone, and the all-new Lineage in stock. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store.
Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
As there's a drive in a deep left field by Castellanos, it will be a home run. And so that'll make it a 4-0 ball game.
Now back to the Bears Den with Drake Toll for a Baylor take on your lunch break.
Welcome back into the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. We're currently taking your calls and questions. We're going to open it up here. We were struggling to get Coach Neighbors on with us, so we're going to open it up, and we want to hear from you on Baylor coaching hire. I know we put it out there today that Molly Miller may be somebody that Baylor ends up going after. I do want to say this. I want to address the comments about Don Staley. Brandon just called the show from Tennessee and said, hey, crazier things have happened than Don Staley moving over to coach at Baylor. So I want to take a look at this. It is Mississippi State, I should say, Vic Schaefer. Vic Schaefer had a new deal, average of $1.6 million a year at Mississippi State. UT had to go after a coach, drag away a coach in Vic Schaefer that was making $1.6 million a year. Kim Mulkey's contract at Baylor, so that was a huge feat when they went off and got Vic Schaefer from Mississippi State to Texas. That was massive. Baylor is now, they paid Kim Mulkey $2.3 million a year. That's without bonuses. I mean, Kim Mulkey's making over $2 million a year, period. Don Staley is lucky to make around $2 million in a single season at South Carolina when they win a national championship. So to the tune of, hey, how's $2 million a year? Because here's the deal. Baylor is toying with, Mack Rhoades said it yesterday, the budget will not change for the women's basketball program. Armstrong, if you have any B-roll of Don Staley, I'd love to see that too for the folks that may not know who she is. Don Staley, the head coach at South Carolina, has built a powerhouse at USC, the East Coast USC, as a Lady Gamecock. Don Staley currently making, like I said, somewhere in the range of $1.5 million-ish, maybe a little bit less than that before bonuses. It talked about how a national championship victory had helped propel her to be able to make that near the $2 million mark. They won the championship in 2017. Don Staley, for the right price, would she leave South Carolina? Staley is a graduate of Virginia. She played college basketball at Virginia. She's a native of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, so she does not have ties to the exact town, the exact space that is South Carolina, and she does not have ties necessarily to the school that come from her being an alumna or someone that maybe grew up rooting for the school. Don Staley has been hired, business decision, to coach at South Carolina. Similarly to Kim Mulkey at Baylor. She didn't have this crazy tie to Baylor University that brought her to Baylor. I'm sure if LSU would have hired her in 2000, she would have gone to Louisiana State, been a Tiger from the start, and coached with Glenn Moore, the softball coach who's there. Don Staley, though, now the head coach at South Carolina, let me read you through some of her accolades. She is one of the WNBA's top 15 players all time. So she's a great player in her own regard. She's a 6-time WNBA All-Star when she was a player, 2-time Naismith College Player of the Year as an athlete. As a coach, she has an NCAA Division I tournament championship in 2017 with South Carolina. She's a 3-time NCAA regional champion. That's 3 Final Four appearances in 2015, 2017, and this past season in 2021. She's a 6-time SEC champion, 5-time regular season champion, Naismith Coach of the Year in 2020, WBCA Coach of the Year in 2020, AP National Coach of the Year 2020, and USBWA National Coach of the Year in 2020. 4-time SEC Coach of the Year, 4-time Atlantic 10 Coach of the Year. Don Staley is certainly one of the best to ever do it in the women's game already, and she's only 50 years old. I know what you're saying. No way Baylor gets Don Staley. She loves the SEC. She loves South Carolina. Well, yes, and she's built something very powerful at South Carolina, but Vic Schaefer left Mississippi State. Don Staley could leave South Carolina for the right price. I firmly believe that if Baylor says, we will throw X figure at Don Staley, because Baylor has already said, Mack Rhoades said yesterday, that they are not going to change the women's basketball budget, that if that money's already there, it's already allotted, that you say, Don Staley, I know you have built an absolute empire at South Carolina, but we've got the same thing here at Baylor. You can walk in day one, and there's not a need for a rebuild, because I can guarantee you this. Every player on Baylor's roster, I don't know, guarantee's a strong word, but I have pretty good premonition that every player on Baylor's roster would stick around if Don Staley becomes the head coach at BU. And I know what you're thinking. There's no way. That's a huge name. She's already got this basis at South Carolina. I know that's still going through your mind. But, and I don't want to get your hopes up too much, think about Mack Rhoades. Think about what Mack Rhoades wants to do with his hire. He's not afraid to go out there, go find the biggest coach in the game, the best name in the game, and say, we want you here at Baylor. We'll do what it takes, give you this at Baylor. You'd be a great culture fit. You'd be someone that would really build our program well. I'm looking across her career here as a head coach, and I'm telling you, unbelievable, remarkable stuff in what Don Staley has done at South Carolina. She was at Temple for years. South Carolina kind of took a chance on her. She went 10-18 in her first year, then 14-15, then 18-15, and it's you're getting better, but you're not really getting over the hump. Well, next thing you know, she's a Sweet 16 coach. Now she's rolling. Now she's winning an NCAA championship. She has a career record of 331 wins and 103 losses. She came into the SEC when Pat Summitt was still running the game, went 2-12 in her first season, and then went 16-0 in league play in 2019-2020 and could have won a national championship. She beat Kim Mulkey at one of those classics overseas. 152 wins in conference play, 54 losses in her career. 152-54. Dawn Staley is one of the top 5 coaches currently in women's college basketball. She's only 50 years old, and I'll tell you, I would think it crazy if the call's not at least put out there. You know, they've said that Scott Woodward, the athletic director at LSU, that at first he was leery. He wasn't going to call Mulkey day one and be like, hey, the job's open, it's yours. Because she's a tenured coach at a university she loves, and she's winning like crazy. So why even make that call? It's a waste of your time, right? Well, she left. If Kim Mulkey can leave for LSU, if Vic Schaefer can leave for Texas, why can't Dawn Staley, for the right price, leave from South Carolina and come to Baylor? It's not like we're asking Dawn Staley to come to, Missouri, who's not bad, a mediocre program, saying, hey, come to this mediocre program, we'll give you X amount of dollars, you can win here, yay. No, you're saying, Dawn, come to Baylor, make 2.3, 2.5, we'll guarantee you 2.4. Come to Baylor, and we'll give you Nalissa Smith, Queen Egbo, possibly Moon Urson, a nice transfer from Alabama. We'll give you the new field house that's coming up, new facilities. You've got all these prospects for a coach like Dawn Staley. For my question is, why wouldn't she at least consider? Who's not going to get a phone call from Baylor, not pick up the phone and say, maybe? So for the folks that may be skeptics of this, you have to realize, too, that Baylor's still a powerhouse, a national powerhouse in women's college basketball, that Baylor has the name, that Baylor has the brand to go out and find a coach like Dawn Staley, if not Molly Miller. I like the Molly Miller hire. But Dawn Staley, well, that's not impossible. We got to open up the phone lines here. We got Jason in Fort Worth. Jason, what's going on? Calling about Molly Miller.
Yes, sir. I saw your tweet last night. Said her name to remember her name. Started looking her up, and everything you said, I agree wholeheartedly. I think and for those who maybe are still looking at other people, haven't had a chance just to go to the Grand Canyon website and just take a look and just read some of the things that she's about. I mean, when you think about a hire at Baylor, you talk about the coach at South Carolina. That would be amazing. It would be a big splash hire. But I think Mack Rhoades looks for culture. I think, you take Matt Rule, you take a Dave Aranda, who, some of us were like, who, and I think that, she's wonderful. I mean, she represents everything we stand for. I think her and Scott Drew would be peas in a pod. And I think also it's kind of interesting that, from Grand Canyon, you have the connection between, Scott Drew's brother's out there. So she's already hanging around the Drews. So, Scott Drew's got a little bit of tie to her. At some point, or at least a phone line. And, my question, though, is about timing. So what do you think about, she just moved, I guess she was hired in March of last year. So she just moved from her Division II to that school and has been there for 1 year. She just had a second kid, so, do they want to pack up and move all the way to Texas, 1 year in after just getting settled out there, or obviously it's a big draw to come to Baylor, be like Duke and the men's side or something like that. But what do you think about that? And then as well, contractually for someone like a Joni Taylor, those kinds of things, are buyouts as big of a deal in women's college basketball?
There are a lot of spots, especially now that Joni Taylor has just signed a new contract at Georgia. So that doesn't mean that you're there for life. Matt Rule left after signing a new contract, but the buyout does get bigger. So I'm assuming Joni Taylor's buyout at Georgia is heftier than what you would expect, but I don't think that'll be an issue for Baylor to put up if that's their A1 hire at Georgia. I will say, Jason, as far as the prospect of Molly Miller having to uproot from Grand Canyon, I think you agree. I will say there are two sides to look at this. The first being, yes, she just moved. But the second being, well, she just moved. It's she's already packed up and gone over there. But also she hasn't built the foundation at Grand Canyon that keeps people from leaving. Once they really grind in for 10, 12 years and you say, hey, we are gonna, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be a lifer, like a Gino, or what we thought Kim Mulkey was, or Muffet McGraw. We haven't seen that yet from Molly Miller. I would say if this job was North Texas, if this job was even Texas Tech, that no, Molly Miller probably doesn't up and come to Texas. But the fact that this job is Baylor, if you're Molly Miller, you've been at Drury, you've won those national championships at Drury College, you've been at Grand Canyon now, and the A1 top 5 premier women's basketball school calls your cell phone, how do you say no to that? It's not like I've got a baby and I'm at Grand Canyon and we're happy. I mean, this is a top 5 job. If Alabama football calls you on the cell phone and says, we want you to come coach here, when's the next time that opportunity is going to come open? And you're the guy that then told them no,
Exactly. And, my other thing is the dynamic of age-wise. So you have all the players right now that we've heard are hanging on to kind of see who they bring in. Well, they got Molly Miller's a similar coaching style from all accounts. Very fierce competitor, fiery, hard defense, hard nose, tough coach. It's just a totally, you look at Kim Mulkey like a kind of a mom figure to them, and she's very similar in age. So it's a totally different dynamic when you bring her in to try to win those players in the locker room. So that was my other thing is the interesting fact that I am 100%. You can imagine her, just from by all accounts, what kind of person she is, the character she would bring. They're doing Bible studies in the locker room and doing homework together. She values family and culture, and that's what Mac Rhodes says. So that's all I got for today. And then I appreciate your tweet last night because I'm there with you, brother.
Yeah, I didn't know the name until yesterday, and I've watching Paul Catalina's top 5 video that's just taken off on YouTube. He mentions Molly Miller, and the more that I've done, the more research I've done on her. Here's the deal, Jason. I firmly believe that she's going to be a legitimate powerhouse head coach in women's college basketball in the next 20 seasons. It's a matter of who picks her up.
Yeah.
It could be Baylor now that does that, and maybe you're taking a chance a little bit too early on a coach that doesn't have that pedigree yet at the Division I level. However, maybe it comes back to bite you when she's hired by, I don't know, a TCU, and starts coming down to Waco, and now she's putting up big numbers at TCU and beating Baylor. You don't want that situation. If Mac Rhodes sits down in an interview with Molly Miller, which I have no information that they will interview her at all, but if that's the case, he sits down and realizes this is going to be a legitimate competitor years to come in women's college basketball, I'll sacrifice 2 or 3 mediocre seasons at the front end to win national championships at a high level on the back end. I'm sure you would agree.
I agree, and it's all about timing. Timing is everything. Everything happens for a reason, and you got to think. She sees it, and I'm sure. I've already followed her on Twitter. Come on, so she's probably getting a lot of that. But how cool would it be? It would be well deserved. How can you argue with the highest winning percentage in women's college or any basketball program right now? Right. So I just think she's a fantastic, fierce, beautiful personality, and I think she'd go well here. So that's my 2 cents, man. Have a great afternoon, man. You too. Hey, thanks for your call, Jason. Always good to hear from you. Yep. All right. We were kind of lost on the Bear Games question there. So we've looped back around with Mike Neighbors, and what I think we're going to do is be able to reschedule him for tomorrow and get him on for tomorrow. Armstrong, does that work for you? Armstrong is nodding yes. We're going to work back around for that tomorrow. I know he's got another Zoom call at 2. Hopefully he can get onto that one, whatever it may be, because I know that had some struggles getting him on the line today. So we'll try for that tomorrow with Mike Neighbors, head coach of the University of Arkansas, get his thoughts on Kim Mulkey being in the fraternity of coaches in the SEC because, well, it's going to be big. That's going to be big. Her being able to compete in the SEC and how well she does and what this move means for that conference. So excited to hear from Mike Neighbors tomorrow. Sorry we couldn't get you that today, but some audio or technical issues, Wi-Fi issues on his end that weren't able to let us grab that. So again, like I said, we promise that as long as things are up on his end tomorrow, we'll be able to get that to you. What else? So it's Molly Miller is the big name. Satia Messer is another name. Obviously, Joni Taylor is on the front of things for what we believe Mac Rhodes will go after. I'm not sure there's any real substance to that, but Joni Taylor's name has been thrown in the hat, and you know that Mac Rhodes is working tirelessly. He has cleared everything else off of his schedule for the next week, and Mac will be working to find a new women's basketball coach, and hopefully by the next time he joins SicEm365 Radio and the afternoon show next week, next Tuesday, there will be a new head women's basketball coach in town. Now it's just a matter of who. We can continue to speculate, and we will continue to speculate to find out, hey, this person X, have you heard of them? What kind of fit would they be? Who knows? Well,
We'll keep talking about it and try to find out. I'm Drake Toll. That's Armstrong Sims. When we come back from this break, there's some birthdays that are going on today, some celebrity birthdays going on today, and we'll play This Day in Sports History. A whole lot happening on Up Tempo. Don't go anywhere, because this is, well, Up Tempo.
The search begins with a vacancy at the head coaching position for Baylor women's basketball for the first time in 21 years. Mack Rhoades has begun the evaluation of coaches across the country who could be viable candidates for the Lady Bear job. Names such as assistant coach Satia Messer and Georgia coach Joni Miller have gained immense amount of traction as two candidates on the forefront of the search. It's expected that university will name a successor for the former coach by the early part of next week. Outside of women's basketball, they are red hot. The Baylor baseball team dominated one of the Southern Conference's top teams, defeating Prairie View A&M 14-0 at Baylor Ballpark. It was the sixth shutout of the year for the team as they improved to 20-3 at home. As Steve Rodriguez and company have now won 14 of 17 games and have solidified a legitimate postseason resume as the year wanes. On the softball side, the Lady Bears ran into an absolute buzzsaw. Number 1 Oklahoma was just too much for the team to handle as Glenn Moore and company fell in Game 1 7-1 and Game 2 11-0. Oklahoma improved to 39-1 on the season and 14-0 in Big 12 play, while Baylor did retire the first 13 batters of Game 1 and had a 1-run lead in the fourth. It's tough to stop the hottest team in the nation. In NCAA news, President Mark Emmert was granted a contract extension through 2025 on Tuesday by the association's Board of Governors. And Iowa hooper Jordan Bohannon is staying with his school to return for a sixth season. He's the career record holder in assists, three-pointers made, and games played in school history. 5 years will do it for you. And Ole Miss has fired its offensive line coach Randy Clements literally just a couple days after the team's spring game. Lane Kiffin told media it was strictly for football reasons that he was let go. I'm Armstrong Sims, and that's all the news that is news in college sports. It's been Armstrong's Minute on SicEm365 Radio's Up Tempo.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma. And they have to come here. They're used to lights. They're used to water in their mouth. They're used to experience. They already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm, welcome home.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Up Tempo on SicEm365 Radio.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Now back to the Bears Den with Drake Toll for a Baylor take on your lunch break.
Welcome back to the Petty Clinic Low T Bears Den. Got a big show for you guys tomorrow coming up as well. Mike Neighbors is going to join. We're joined by a Baylor tennis player who just won a Big 12 championship. We're on the hook to try to get another big-time guest, another very special guest to join us. And I don't want to say his name yet, but looking like outside of Mike Neighbors, tennis player, we'll also have Matthew Postins on to talk some basketball. Malik Zaire will be on the show as well, coming up later this week. Some big names the next couple days on Up Tempo. We'll be talking women's basketball and about this women's basketball hire. Hopefully hear from Doug Feinberg of the AP as well. We got a video. Armstrong and Vive got that video I sent to the chat. We're just going to play this this is just the last time we're ever going to do this. We're going to play this for closure. Take it away, Armstrong, if you will. We don't have it. It's in the.
I have no clue what you're talking about.
It's the one. It says, "Please welcome home to the great state."
Yeah, I see it now.
It's a bop, though. The great song.
You can talk about other things while I'm getting.
No. I'm enjoying. I enjoy the music.
Oh, okay.
I'm just enjoying the music. It's like elevator music, but better. Yeah. Oh, why'd you turn it down? What?
Tiger fans, please welcome home to the great state of Louisiana, Coach Mulkey.
Fire that into the sun.
I felt zero emotions watching that.
For the listeners that are on the app and only hearing audio, the psst, psst, psst sound was them spraying Kim Mulkey with Shout Cleaner. Oddly enough, that's a tradition at LSU where they spray new head coaches with cleaner.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
You didn't hear that?
I did hear that, but I don't believe you that it was Shout Cleaner.
Did you not see the video? Did you not watch the video? That was Shout Cleaner. Celebrity birthdays. There's some celebrities that were born today. There'll be celebrities in the future. Not today, but today in history. Well, today, years ago, but today, it's her birthday. Jessica Alba. Jessica Alba is how old?
48?
40. She's only 40. Penelope Cruz is how old?
48.
47, nice. Big Ed. Remember the guy with the neck? Big Ed from TLC's show, The Dating Show?
Don't remember the big guy with the neck. 35.
56. He's 56. Jay Leno's birthday is today. This will shock you.
Jay Leno's 75.
71. I don't know if I thought he was young or old. He's 71 today. Jonathan Scott. Him and his brother have that TV show with their twins and they fix houses.
45.
43. Ferruccio Lamborghini. Inventor of guess what? The Toyota. Ferruccio Lamborghini.
130.
105. Harper Lee, who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah. 98.
95, if she was alive today. James Monroe, U.S. President James Monroe. 242, 26. Okay. How old is he?
James Monroe?
Yep.
245.
263.
Dang it.
263.
You just said 240 something.
I know. I was doing some math in my head. And moving on to this day in sports history, because there are days in sports history that is one of them is today. Cleveland's Buck Baker gives up a record 23 singles as the White Sox beat the Blues 13-1.
1945.
1901. The first night of organized baseball is played in Independence, Kansas. Like, not that it was the first night ever. It was just the first time that it was ever played in Independence, Kansas. Organized baseball. In what year?
1875.
They didn't play organized baseball until 1930 in
Where?
Independence, Kansas. LSU quarterback Jamarcus Russell is the first pick of the draft. First pick of the NFL draft in what year?
Sorry, I'm doing 5 things at once.
Cricket World Cup, Bridgetown, Barbados. Australia defeats Sri Lanka by 53 runs to win their third consecutive World Cup. Nope, Glenn McGrath, the player of the theory. 2007 was the... Oh, you know what that means. Gosh dang it.
Later, guys.
I'm Drake Toll. That's Armstrong Sims. That's all we have for today's show. When we come back tomorrow, that's right. Hold on the line right there. Keep the app open. Keep the listen open. When we come back tomorrow, we're going to talk to Mike Neighbors, the head coach of the University of Arkansas. We're hopefully going to talk to Doug Feinberg of the AP. We got another all-star, big-time guest we could have on tomorrow as well. And then a men's tennis player who just won a Big 12 championship. Come back and see us. I want to see you. Let's do it again, 11 o'clock on YouTube or on the SicEm365 app. This has been and will be always up tempo.